Alrighty, and we're on.
Hey, what's happening?
So I'm here with the Resnekov brothers. We're sitting
One and two.
1 and 2, and we're sitting in obviously VT1 Academy, as you can see in the background. If you're not watching, then obviously we're telling you we're at VT1 Academy. But boys, what's been happening?
We agreed to come on to this one because the last one we didn't talk about martial arts at all.
Yeah.
So hopefully we'll touch on martial arts today at some stage.
Yeah.
What's been happening? What's been happening with you?
I'm just going to figure out a comfortable position for this.
You just spent the last week rewatching John Wick, and now he thinks he works in the in that room where they basically tell you how much it costs to kill John Wick or how much you get paid.
Do you want me to do the voice?
Yeah, do the voice.
Go, give us the voice.
John Wick is now $20 million. Nope, that sounded weird.
Yeah.
that was not how it was.
What's been
before.
happening with you?
Mate, well, we're not here to talk about me.
Well, it is your show.
People can hear lots about me when they listen to all my shows, but let's actually, I want to talk a little bit about brotherly dynamics.
Oh, okay.
Let's kick it off.
You have a brother yourself.
Oh, yeah, so my brother's 7 years older than me.
Right.
When I was a kid, you know, obviously having a brother who's 7 years older, I looked up to him a lot because he's 7 years older, you know, even though I think my brother was probably one of the more sort of nerdy kids at school. Like he went to James Roos, you know, top selective high school. Yeah, great school, right? And, you know, had at the time, you know, he had really thick glasses and, you know, was a bit of a nerd into games, into computers, you know, and he, like, I guess that was a bit of my inspiration to sort of learn a bit more about computers because he was so good at it.
Right.
You know, my mum had a computer shop at the time, and yeah, so it sort of all played in really well together.
A stereotype,
right? Typical Asian. Right?
Oh, you said it. I didn't say it.
And so as a result, like I always reflect back on it and I go, okay, when I was say 10 and he's 17, you know, I'm this 10-year-old who wants.
That's a big age difference. That is a big
7 years. Yeah. So when I was 10 and he's 17, I wanted to be, you know, doing the things that he was doing, but he's trying to do 17-year-old things, and here I am, this, you know, annoying 10-year-old kid. Right, but what's the age gap between you two?
Well, before we go, who's older?
Shit, I think you are.
By how long? How much?
2 years.
Yeah, good guess. It's exactly
just
2
under,
years. Just under 2 years. I am older, but everyone thinks he is because his nose is older.
Yeah. I have aged dramatically since I've had a kid.
Yeah, you do.
Emotionally.
But you rebound after the first year, right?
Yeah.
So you get really old for a year, and then you rebound and you're back again.
I don't think you ever get that youthful exuberance back once you have kids. You get something different because, you know, when I look back at the photos of Ange and I, you know, before kids, you go, oh, we look so young and youthful, you know? And then now it's like, oh, look at us.
Botox, yes.
But, yeah, so, you know, you're the older one by 2 years.
Yep, that's right.
Okay. What was it like for you? I guess, you know, Dylan, if you want to go first as the younger brother, because, you know, you probably don't even remember before Dylan was around anyway, if there's only a 2 year age gap. I think normally it's like, you know, if kids are about 5 or so.
Love me more.
But what do you remember about growing up?
Growing up. So just quickly, so we're under 2 years apart. We're under 2 years apart. But we're 3 years at school, 3 or 4.
Yeah, it was
okay, because the cutoff.
So I stayed back.
Okay.
Which, by the way, didn't make any difference when I was in year 3. Dylan would still write letters to girls in my year.
True.
Asking them out, and he'd ask me to hand them out to the girls that I liked.
I started young.
Started very young.
Yeah.
He was writing letters to the girls in my grade, and I'm like, they're like, oh, Dylan wrote me a letter. I'm like, dude, what about me? I'm not just the messenger. I'm a guy too.
I mean, my handwriting's illegible now, so I don't know what it was like back then.
Yeah, I think
so it
mum
must have
helped you.
horrible.
I think our mother helped him a little bit. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Growing up. So growing up, I remember we were in Kalara. We're actually in other suburbs first, but I can't remember that. And we had a pretty big backyard, long driveway, a little bit of a front yard as well.
Property was a lot cheaper back then.
Yeah. It's a pretty old building. But yeah, I remember growing up. The main things I remember about us growing up together was we watched a lot of like American Ninja.
Yep.
A lot of like all those type of shows, like really martial arts movies. It was more him. I just kind of followed whatever he did.
Yeah. Okay.
And we did a lot of like, you know, sneak around the backyard, and, you know, like Liam would try climb a tree, and then, I don't know.
I specifically remember taking my dad's winches, and we were probably about 6 and we were 7. No, he was 6. I would have been about 7 or 8. And we tied it around a really high tree with his buddies, and we like winched him up the tree. Of course, he fell down, landed on the person, and that was pretty much summarized being a kid. Our dad bought us a motorbike when we were 6 or 7.
Oh, I was pretty young. It was a little Pee-wee 50.
Yeah.
We crashed it.
Yeah. First time on it, just went off, crashed into the...
Did you Superman?
No, I stopped. The bike kept going.
Oh, okay.
We figured out that because my dad liked water skiing, so that was the other thing we spent a lot of time doing. that we'd tie the water ski rope to the back of the motorbike. Then one of our friends would be on rollerblades.
Yep.
And we'd made a ramp out of wooden bricks. And we'd just like fling
Launch yourself off it.
Yeah.
No one seemed to die. I don't know
We
how.
didn't have YouTube. We didn't have anything back then. So
Nah.
a lot of it was just creative, I suppose. You wouldn't see it on TV. Or maybe it was that
a lot
game.
of fighting, a lot of motorbikes and bicycles and skateboards. And that's pretty much just a lot of those things.
I remember Liam chased after me. My late granny was babysitting us. Liam, I did something. He chased after me, and then I slammed the door and he ran into it, and then she smacked me. It was like the roundabout things I remember.
That's pretty much our whole youth is throwing firecrackers. And,
that wasn't youth. That was teens. that was
last week.
I wouldn't mind telling that story, but I'll tell that later.
We had a pretty typical two-brother situation with parents who were working hard, so we just basically destroyed everything and ganged up with everyone in the neighborhood to destroy everything else. And
did you guys fight a lot between yourselves?
we did and we didn't.
No, I mean, we, like any brothers, I think we fought. They're very different personalities.
Yeah,
but,
different personalities.
yeah, I mean,
Yes.
the normal fighting. I don't think like we hated each other.
Yeah.
But
we went through phases though. So we were like good friends, then we weren't friends for a bit, then we were good friends and we weren't friends for a bit. And then when we opened the gym, obviously, became better friends.
Yeah, it's a
again.
lot
But
different when we were...
a lot of like putting Dad's motorbike helmets on and you know, taking his nunchucks when they aren't home, just smashing it, dragging our friends into that sort of
we didn't,
stuff.
like, looking back, it was a really good era to grow up. I don't know how old you are. I'm assuming it's the same
Yeah.
You're
era.
about my age?
Yeah, 39.
Oh, younger than me.
32.
Okay. So yeah, like, I mean, we didn't have, like, I mean, there was like 3 channels on TV, 7, 9, 10. We weren't even allowed to watch TV when we were younger, and there was nothing on anyway.
Yeah.
Like a 7-year-old's not going to watch Neighbours.
Yeah, and Skippy Neighbours,
You know what I mean?
Home and Away.
Yeah, so there was nothing on anyway. So we
There's
didn't have
Agro's
YouTube.
Cartoon Connection in the morning.
Oh yeah, we had
That was
that.
good.
That was
Samurai
pretty
Pizza
good.
Cats.
It's Samurai.
You know?
That was a
I
little
don't
later.
remember
This
that.
was Ninja
No.
Turtles.
Okay,
for
Ninja
sure.
Turtles. Robotech.
Yeah.
Robotech was
We
on
had
for a period of time.
Saturday
little bit
morning was Cartoon
WWE.
Network.
Yeah,
Or
Cartoon Network.
Cartoon Morning. That was good.
Yeah, that was good.
But I mean, besides that, we didn't have internet. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have phones. Like there was, I mean, Dad used to have a phone in his car that connected. I mean, there was nothing really. So like you just had
Which was
fun.
good when
And
you stole his car a bunch of times.
yeah, that was when I was older.
We'll get to those stories.
Yeah. Yep.
But
I mean,
like pretty classic. Like we'd fight over things. Our friends would fight with each other, but yeah, just we always got on really well. But we had 3 VHS tapes, and you just watched them over and over again. Kickboxer, Bloodsport, and like Big Trouble in Little China, and a bunch of Jackie
trying to think of
Chan.
the other ones.
My dad would bring Jackie Chan.
Police
films
Story,
back from
maybe?
overseas, and
Yeah.
that was it.
Yeah.
Well, that was SBS at the time. You know, back then it was like
And
you
you
try
could
and
record.
yeah, you try and watch SBS to see if they put
Yeah.
on like the good foreign movies, the Asian fighting movies,
Yeah.
Jackie Chan and all that.
You
Jet
could
Li.
record it on double length. Remember that long play? You could have like a 3-hour tape that goes for 8 hours.
6 hours or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you have to get the tracking right. So
Yeah.
I mean, there's things like, you know, my brother got a screwdriver, wrote my name into the wall, and then
that story is his story. And a bunch of neighborhood kids got banned from my house because they used to come over and eat all my chocolates next to my bed until my mum's like, do you think it's likely that it's them or it's your brother? And he's just blaming them. And so I realized that I have a little bit of a criminal mastermind for a brother over
Yeah.
here.
I was a little bit.
The problem was, though, he
manipulative.
used to write my name with screwdriver, even though he's blaming me.
Sure,
Because he was
let's twist that
mildly
story around.
dyslexic, his L's would be backwards.
Well, okay, hang on.
I don't know if that's true, but it could be.
Wait.
That
So
is
what's
true.
Dylan's version of events here? Because we're having, you know, a bit of a
that's the real version.
That's the real
That
version.
is the real version.
Yeah. I don't know, like, just like looking back at that, why would I write his name on the wall with a screwdriver, like literally inside the house, and then blame him? Like, honestly, it's if my parents are going to believe that.
But you know what you know what you
Smack that
realize,
day too.
and some advice to brothers. You know, try out different things in your life, and when you realize you're not good at getting away with crime, don't lead a life of crime.
Yeah.
That's good advice.
Yeah, that's very true.
He would have been a criminal, but he just wasn't very good at it. So he just went on the straight and narrow instead. So it's good life advice. Do what you're good at.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really remember much before 10-ish.
Well-
Maybe like the teens was a little bit different. Like I remember a lot during the teens.
I was going to say, bear in mind, both of our parents were from South Africa. So both our parents were karate teachers.
Yeah.
We grew up with that in the gym. They were very, at home, they're very sporty, like a lot of, you know, water skiing and all that sort of stuff. Grew up around guns because they were from South Africa as well. So we didn't have a normal upbringing.
Yeah.
We didn't have a normal upbringing. We thought we did. And then we're at our Aussie friends' houses and we realize they're sleeping with the doors open. We're sleeping on the top floor with an alarm in the middle, and one of us would go put the alarm on. We'd all run upstairs, lock all the windows, and then go to our rooms. We'd have like a baseball bat. They'd have a gun in the, that was our upbringing.
This is
we thought it was
Kalara.
normal.
Like it's a safe suburb.
Yeah.
I mean,
But these are the things like
safe.
the experience that your parents would have had in South Africa would have shaped their mentality on how things are supposed to be. You know? I think it was fairly similar, not similar in the sense to that extent, but I think, so my parents, would definitely, we'd always lock the doors and all that sort of stuff. I think that's fairly common, whereas, a lot of other families probably just didn't really mind. You leave the door open, so let the air in, so to speak.
100%.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I get, like, from that perspective, like, for you guys growing up in school, and, you mentioned one story where Dylan's writing love letters to the girls in your grade. I'm a bit curious about, the difference between what you guys were like at school. Like, what did the teachers say about each of you?
Yeah, that's a good question.
I meant, I think we're very different. I did actually end up doing all right later at school. I went to a few, like we tried a few different schools in the local area.
Yep.
Slimfield, Kalara, Masada, things like that. I ended up back at my original school.
So how come you changed so many times?
I think we're just trying to find a school that could.
Well, I could give you the real story.
Well, my reports were Dylan could focus better. Dylan could apply himself better. It was consistent.
Here's a really good example though of he was in the wrong age slot. So he was
Were you
out
young
of school.
when you started?
Very young.
He was
I
young.
was the youngest in the grade.
Okay.
I was lucky because I was in the younger side of it, but I had a big group of friends that were in the younger side. His group was a little bit different. So when he came back to the same school as in the grade below as an older kid, suddenly his marks went up. He was great at sport. He was very popular. So it's a really interesting, the parents back then didn't really talk about that. Now my young son, we're waiting an extra year in kindergarten because he's just not ready.
Yeah.
In the past, you would have just chucked him straight into school. So it was remarkable to see how much he thrived being in the right age group. But I do remember one of the reasons he left. Can I mention it?
I mean, you mean the first high school?
Well,
there's a couple of reasons.
No, not that one. But the junior school, and this happens, and this is, we're martial arts.
Okay, we're going PG. Okay, go junior school.
We're martial arts instructors, and we teach self-defense and confidence, right?
Yep.
Dylan was targeted by a bully at the school.
Yeah.
Not a physical bully, because he was quite physical. He was somebody who just tormented him. He was a deaf kid. He was just, instead of letting other people tease him, he just target the kind of nice kids, and he just made his life hell. The parents got together. The parents are lovely.
Wait, so it was a deaf kid that was bullying?
Deaf kid that was bullying him.
Okay.
And I mean, obviously not every deaf kid bullies people, but the thing is, it's a classic example of somebody who has something and they redirect it straight into just the easiest target. And being the younger kid, Dylan was the easiest target. There was nothing the parents could do. There was nothing they could do. He was doing karate. He was they were even friends. They were actually
They're
friends.
still friends today, actually.
I know, but I mean, you were friends with him. He just turned, he was just a nasty kid.
Yeah.
And there was just nothing. And they asked me to step in and do something. I'm like, a year above or 2 years above. What am I going to do? Beat up a deaf kid?
Yeah. It's a lose-lose situation.
Dude, it was really nasty. And he had his whole family were lovely. The sister they're all lovely, but just this kid just had a thing for Dylan. So they moved him, and he had a good time at the other school. I mean, you can talk about it.
I went to Linfield East, but I actually live right next there, which is good. Linfield East Public School, and that was like a very involving school. Like the parents are very involved. It was a mix of different kids. Like there was different groups in there, and there was no cool group and not cool group. We were all just one big group, which was cool.
Was it a smaller school? Like did they only have a few?
Actually, I think it was bigger than that. Yeah, I think
wow.
it was bigger than my original school.
Yep.
But it's a really good school. I was very happy with it.
Yep.
And then we moved to the high school as well. Look, there were still bullies there. There was still some form of bullying. I was still the youngest there. I was definitely the youngest. Maybe one other guy was younger than me. I wasn't a big kid either. Even to year 12, I was still I think there was one or two kids and me, and we were the smallest kids in there.
Yeah, wow.
So let's say I didn't develop very well. And just on that note, that particular grade I was originally in at about 20 schools that I knew of.
Yep.
Well, I knew them later in life as well, and what year they finished. It just wasn't a good year.
It
was like a lot of drugs. There was a lot of no one really did well at school. I'm not sure why. It was just maybe a coincidence. It was the year of the Olympics. That's why.
Yeah.
So they had the Olympics right in the middle of the HSC as well.
Yeah, okay.
So,
big distraction.
Well, that was why my parents didn't want me to stay in that year as well.
Oh, really?
But also the year below, this is too interesting, but the year below when I did stay back, it was cool to be smart.
Yeah.
Like everyone was nice.
Yep.
If you were smart, you were cool. So I wasn't cool. No, if you did well at school, that was like what everyone wanted to do, is do well. And that really pushed me in high school as well.
He underplays. He actually was quite smart. The thing is, I'm talking about my brother here as like an experiment. But the thing is, it was a really, because I've got my own kids now, right?
Yeah.
Both of them are boys. They look like Dylan and I. So one looks like me, the older one. The young one looks exactly like Dylan. He acts like Dylan. The older one acts like, it's nuts. Yeah. And it's a really good example of, that whole thing in the Outliers about kids and their ages and being in the right groups. It's when he came back, suddenly his marks shot up. He was good at this. I guess he discovered he was actually good at stuff, and it wasn't really his fault that he was a young kid in an older grade. But the thing is, kids can't help but feel they're the problem.
Yeah.
And I remember different things like that in school. I'm sure you do too.
Yeah, of course.
And it was just a matter of just putting him in the right grade at the right time and the right age. And then suddenly everything just rolled into place. It was nuts.
I think when you have like a first experience of anything, if you get told that you're not good at something, straight away you turn off. Like you don't want to be involved in it, right? But if you have the right person that sort of encourages you and, even it might be a small win, but they celebrate that small win for you, that sort of gives you that motivation to keep trying.
100%.
And then over time, I think there's a saying, it's competence breeds confidence.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so being competent at something can actually give you confidence. Like if you're trying to answer a question in class, as an example, you put your hand up and then you get told you're a freaking idiot. You never put your hand up again. Right?
Yeah.
But, if you put your hand up, you give a wrong answer, but the teacher says, oh, good try, but, this is the answer, then you still, feel like you still want to engage, right?
Just an observation also with my younger son. He doesn't try things because he's scared he'll be bad at them.
Yeah.
Whereas my older son will just do anything and doesn't care, and he just tries things.
Yeah.
And you're the younger kid.
Yep.
He's the younger kid, and I wonder if that's something to do with the parenting of a younger and older kid dynamic. And I think there's probably something there. The younger son is terrified to do something that once he feels like he's good at it, he's got that confidence, he's overconfident.
Yeah.
But I can see that doesn't want to fail thing, and it's much more in the younger kid than it is in the older kid for some reason. I don't understand the dynamics of it, but
I think the older kid just doesn't know any better. You sort of, your parents tell you to and so with the dynamic with my kids is that my eldest Cadence, if we tell her, oh, let's do this, she'll do it.
Yeah.
She might be, a bit trepidatious or, a bit I don't know.
Because her dad uses big words.
Yeah, far out. I've put myself in a corner there using a big word, and I was like, oh, what's the right version of
follow
that? But she can be a bit nervous to try things, but she'll at least give it a go. And then I think now it's like, say as an example, like we're trying to teach her piano, and if they get good at piano, it's one of those things where they want to do more. But like there'll be days that it's hard to build those. Yeah, it's hard to build that routine, and then the other thing that she gets very frustrated because Angie's great at piano, right? And so she'd be like, oh, mummy can play this song the first time without any practice. How come she can do it but I can't? And it's like trying to explain to her, well, how much older is mummy than you? She's got 32 years more experience. She started playing piano at your age.
Yeah.
She wasn't playing like this when she was your age. She was playing like you are.
Yeah.
So it's interesting to try and coach them through that. To let them know that, hey, you're learning. It's okay to fail,
I know, what occurs to me, because I'm learning piano with my son at the moment. And I learned it as a child, right? And I was forced to play piano. I suppose at some stage I said I wanted to play piano. I don't imagine I actually did. And I've even got a video. My dad was videoing me trying the piano. Did you try piano or you did drums?
Do you know what's funny? Can I tell you something I remembered just right then?
Go.
Dad used to take you in a piano lesson and sit in the car with me.
Yeah.
Then he would go in and do another piano lesson with you and just leave me in the car for like an hour. No, I actually remember to sit in the car. Like, can you imagine doing that this day and age?
Yeah.
I sat in the car for an hour by myself. No technology.
And who knows? Oh, wait, how did you figure out how to steal cars? I don't know.
That's what would happen though. You leave, I guess.
It wasn't a hot day or anything.
We got left in the car all the time. I remember us going like this and like flinging water at each other off our sweat.
Do you want to tell the story about when Dad made me sit in the car and watch his car?
What?
God, we're not on to Dad yet. Let's keep Dad out of this for the moment.
We should do it.
Basically, my dad, someone was scratching his car, and he paid my brother to sit in the car with the seat down with a video camera.
I sat opposite him in my car. With the video camera. Yeah, I was already 17.
The seat backwards.
And I sat for an hour waiting for someone to scratch his car.
No one, of course, no one did. That's my dad. My dad's a character. I don't even know. You could just you could do a podcast on my dad.
You literally. It'd be pretty funny.
But anyway, coming back was, so with my son, we give him all the lessons and this, and it's hard, and I'm scared too. But what I'm trying now is just to learn piano with him. And you know, when I learned piano, so he learned drums and he wanted to learn drums.
I tried saxophone, clarinet, drums, and that was it. And
But you're pretty
Drums,
good at
you
drums.
think?
He actually
Drums
was
good,
very
actually,
good at drums.
yeah.
Because he wanted to play drums,
Yeah.
right?
clarinet, real popular kid at school.
Well, you know,
Everyone-
the thing is,
Everyone
Everyone
all the
loves the
girls came
clarinet
running
player.
after me, the clarinet player.
Dylan and I figured out that if you're in the school band, you actually miss a week of school every year. So I stayed in the school band playing cowbell till like
You
year
played
12.
bass, didn't you?
I played bass, but I really
Yeah.
played cowbell in the band just so I could get that week away on camp from actually studying. But
And you got like 3 dings to play in one
I
song.
was actually like one,
I just
two,
don't
three.
know.
And the composer's like looking at me, it's time for the ding.
I feel like no one took the clarinet spot and like, okay, Dylan, you're in it. Like it's a really hard instrument to play too. Like I'm not that talented at music.
You know, we teach kids now, and one of the lessons I'm learning, right, is that showing kids that learning is for them is very hard.
Yeah.
And you can tell them, but showing is really the only way. You know, I say to my son Bronson, I say, hey, Bronson, practice piano. You wanted to play the piano, we bought it for you. Now, that doesn't, he goes to his room, you know. But I'm trying to show him by actually being shitty at piano that there is a place we both start, which is shitty, and we both practice, and now we're doing a little duet. It's okay. Like, not good, but him seeing me struggling and actually being like, I don't want to show up today, but I'm going to, because I want to one day have the freedom to play, seems to be helping a little bit.
Yeah.
But I remember us playing instruments. My dad set up a video camera to send to my granny B. And there's me just going like this, Dad, I don't want to play. Dad, come on, play. Dad, I don't want to play. It was like Homer with Bart. Anyway, the video camera turns off. I've got this video. He says I don't, but I do. Video camera turns off. It comes back on. I'm crying. Because it kept me hiding.
Yeah.
And the thing is that didn't help me play piano. But now I look at piano. It's this beautiful mathematical
it's brilliant.
instrument, and it's amazing. And I wish I paid attention, but I never learnt that learning is for me. And you know, I've heard that from adults nowadays. When did you do well at school? Oh, when I learnt that learning's for me. When I learned how to enjoy learning. So Montessori, I'm not really into the Montessori school thing. I think it attracts weird parents, but the method is pretty interesting. You know, what are you into? You're into airplanes. Okay, let's talk about why maths is important for airplanes. Let's talk about physics. Let's talk about, let's go look at airplanes. Now look at that design. Let's learn graphic. So that system makes sense as a parent, but it would attract the weirdest parents. So I don't think you can do it as an institution.
Well, funny you say that. I was watching this movie last night. It's called Florida Man. Just came out. Brilliant, by the way.
Is it?
On Netflix. Oh, brilliant. And there's this dad who he measures sewage pipes, something in the city, and the daughter doesn't want to study, and he's like, "Look at me. For sewage work, you need to learn geometry and this and that." And the daughter's just looking, going like,
I do not
okay,
want to
Dad,
do
that's
that."
like not a great job.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough. Well, as both we're all parents now, figuring out what works and what doesn't with kids is very challenging, and then not falling into the same tropes as our parents. Just shut up and do it.
You're not married to a Singaporean, mate. There's her
Vietnamese
way
girl,
or
dude. What are you talking
there's no
about?
my way. It's her way.
This is interesting, right? Because you know sometimes I'll lose my shit at my kids, right? Like, and I think every parent knows this feeling, right?
Yes, they do.
But you know, when I take a moment afterwards, I try and reflect back and go, was there a better way to handle this? Like sometimes I just feel like there's no other way other than it's like you ask nicely, and it's like ignored. Ask nicely again. Okay, ignored. Okay, I'm going to start counting. Right, I'll count to 10, and then there'll be a punishment of some sort. Right, and you got to follow through because otherwise, then they learn that your word isn't your word. Right?
They figure out the system.
Yeah, they just game the system if you don't actually follow through what you say.
I figured that out.
Very quick. When he was like 3 years old.
Yeah.
All younger brothers.
So then it's like, okay, so you get to the end of your counting, you have to deliver the punishment. All right, the kid's upset, whatever the case may be, and so be it. And then it's like generally it actually works. Like you can sort of force them to do what they don't want to do. But then I think to myself, is that actually the best way to do things? Yeah. You sort of want them to want it, but then at the same time, how do you get them to that point, especially when they're kids and they're still malleable, right?
Do you go to therapy at all? Have you been to therapy?
No.
Is it because Chinese people don't believe in therapy?
Yeah, you could probably say that. Yeah.
Look, I'm sure therapy is a broad word. You know, journaling can be whatever it is, right? So
this is my therapy.
This is your therapy.
Yeah.
Very objective too. But I highly recommend all coaches and parents do therapy.
Yeah.
Not extensively, just you have someone in your corner you can talk to.
Yeah, you got to reflect.
Yeah, and it gives you objective reflection. And you may be naturally reflective already. So, like, I look at my wife and I'm practicing mindfulness. And I'm like, she should practice. And then I look at her and she's very mindful already. And I'm like, fuck you. Like, how do you get this already? She tells me an answer. And I'm like, no, that's not the answer. That's too simple. I go around for 4 hours thinking about it and talking to her. I go back. She had the right answer. Some people naturally don't need it.
Intuitive.
But in a general sense, every parent, every coach should, or business owner should have a therapist that they work with, because it's such a reflective process, you know. And so I think about what you're saying in my own kids. I remember the one time, because we got a lot of hidings, right? I'm sure you did too.
Yeah.
It was kind of acceptable.
I just wanted to tell him how our parents is. It was like, you warn them once, you warn them twice, and my dad would just do this. And just tap his belt. And like, at least he's wearing his black belt today, not his
wooden spoon.
Yeah.
It didn't hurt after a while.
It's
Here's the thing,
I
right?
deserve it.
So hidings are considered abusive. Now, I can tell you right now, they don't in any way dissuade people from doing the wrong thing. Like,
yeah. Well, is Dylan an example of that?
well, I think we're all. I mean,
Stopped hurting after a while. After 6.
I think prison's a perfect example of how harsh punishment doesn't dissuade anybody from doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
Other than minor things, right? But you know, we look at our kids, right, and they do the same thing wrong. Hurting them doesn't help.
No, of course not.
But it stops them doing dangerous things that moment, right? Yeah. I remember one hiding only. I remember the other ones, but I don't remember anything negative about them. But there is one I remember where my dad gave me a hiding, and I remember as a 5-year-old kid to this day lying on my bed crying and thinking, what did I do? I don't know what I did. That was so unfair. So, you know...
It's probably me that did it wrong.
Yeah, it was probably
I blamed him.
Oops. And I'm in the other room going...
Oh, God. Yeah. I'm not going to get into this story. You know those bedwetting things when you're really, really young, the electric ones, and they make an alarm?
Yeah.
Let's just say I found out how to get my brother to have more hidings than he should have. But with a glass of water and running out of the room.
Genetic thing in my family. We went out bed till about 12, some of us.
No, but I just figured out if you pour
True
water
story.
on it, run back to the room, my dad would come running down the hall and give him a... Anyway, so, but coming back, I only remember one hiding. And so when I'm coaching now and when I'm with my kids, the main feedback I give my coaches and I remind myself is there's nothing wrong with punishing people for doing something wrong. There has to be a punishment sometimes, right? As long as you explain why it happened and how they can rectify it, it'll never be unfair. So we only ever get in trouble at the gym when someone who's a coach, for example, rightly sends a kid to the corner or doesn't give them a stripe or whatever the punishment is, and they don't explain both to the kid and the parent why they did it. And you get in trouble because the parent will call you, and when you explain it to them, they get it.
Yeah.
But
actions and consequences.
and consequences. So I actually remember as a 5-year-old getting a hiding because my dad didn't explain why I was getting that hiding. Every other hiding, I knew why I was getting it.
Yeah.
You know?
It was
Every
well deserved.
hiding, I knew why I got
We
it.
knew it.
Yeah.
Every hiding.
And you know, you feel the pain, and you're like, that's a price for having fun, right? But it's very important to explain to the kids and the students why they are sitting out. So that's my best guess.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So then, did we finish our train of thought in terms of what the so teachers were saying that you had all this potential but needed to apply yourself more. And then you moved around a few different schools, and then once you've sort of found the right environment, you started to do a little bit better. What about when you went to high school? So what happened in high school?
So the first high school I went to, I was just in the wrong group. There's 250 people in my grade. I think there's like 400 now at some of the schools.
Wow.
It's madness. I don't think they had the right structure for me. It was like a one size fits all. And then the next school I went to, because I was the oldest as well, and everyone was, like, when I say smart, everyone tried hard to do well and tried hard to do well. So I think that was like my motivation to get in there and do well and just succeed at school. So I think I was just in the right school with the right teachers, in the right group, in the right age as well.
Yeah, you did well. I mean, without saying the number he got, he did really well, and he ended up going to accounting, and like it's not. But you know, the thing is, I remember as a kid, he did an IQ test, and his IQ was ridiculous. Like it was like, and I'm not saying this to show off. This is actually to show a problem that occurs with kids, right? So his IQ was genius level, right? But he couldn't use it. He just couldn't use it because the subjects he was doing and the method of teaching just
didn't resonate.
Just didn't resonate. And the thing is, I mean, obviously he becomes a world champion one day, right? And I look at my dad, who's a younger brother like him. There's a lot of similarities in personality, My dad left school in year 9 and went on to become a very successful real estate agent, all these sort of things, right? But he can speak 5 different languages fluently, but he barely finished high school.
Yeah.
But he only finished those languages and speaks them because they interested him.
Yeah.
You know, they engaged him. Karate engaged him. You know, being a mechanic engaged him. So all these different things engaged him. And I feel sad because, although I don't really, because he's ended up okay and I've ended up okay. We've all ended up okay.
Yeah.
I had my own version of this. I'm only speaking about his, but just to watch a very intelligent kid not be able to access intelligence because the school system didn't really know how to deal with that, and they just put it as naughty or special or weird, you know. So
yeah, well, the naughtiness sometimes comes from being bored. You know, you sort of see something. Yeah, like you know, when you're not engaged because it's not mentally stimulating anymore.
Well, let me ask you, you see a kid who comes to school, he can, let's take drug dealing, for example, right? Obviously, there's stupid people who deal drugs, right? But there's some very entrepreneurial kids who do the wrong thing.
Really smart. Yeah.
Well, let's take drugs. Let's just say selling cassette tapes that are pirated, whatever. It doesn't have to be drugs.
Running a bookkeeping
these guys are running bookkeeping, betting schemes. Like, man, they're figuring out economies and like all these sort of things. This is not a stupid kid, right? I mean, obviously he didn't deal drugs, but I see it nowadays. And all of us end up in martial arts. And it's every kid or adult I have in martial arts now is weird.
Yeah.
They're a weirdo like me, right? Because the thing is they finally got a chance to do something and then have someone go, oh, you're pretty good. I want to see more from you.
Yeah.
Oh, so for Dylan it was probably his boxing or rugby coach or I don't know. What was it for you? What was your first inspiration where someone was like, oh shit, Dylan's actually good? Oh, economics.
No, I'm going to tell you a story
Oh, good.
about when I got serious at martial arts. It's a very interesting story.
Can you come back to that though?
Not really. I've been trying to.
No, let's go. Let him go. He's on the
He knows the story.
Can I tell you why though? We will come back. But what was your first school teacher? Because you did great in economics and stuff. What was your first?
I did really well in business economics. Like I smashed business economics. Maths, I killed it because there was an answer. English, not so good. There's just too much creative stuff for me.
Yep.
But you're very creative though.
I am, but I just think it was, I struggled a bit with English. I just found that hard. Like that was hard. Even a lot of kids these days say it's a really hard test, like the actual test itself. But business and economics, I loved. It was brilliant. And maths as well.
You had a fantastic teacher, Mrs. Grana, was it?
Oh, yeah. So it's actually one of my best mates' mum, Mrs. Grana, and I can't remember the economics teacher.
Mr. Bradbury.
And he was just
amazing.
Brilliant. They were just like made it so engaging, and we didn't even have, I don't know if we had internet. Maybe we just got internet back then.
Loosely,
Yeah, I just got in like year 11, 12. And that was, like they made it fun. Like I was really engaged. Like I loved it. I went on into business studies later on at university, etc. But they made it fun enough and engage enough that we enjoyed it. It's pretty bland economics, like at school, but he made it so good.
I was going to say they make it pragmatic too. Like, so I remember Mr. Bradbury, who was this great economics teacher, and I have no interest in economics. I still don't really, but you know, he did, for example. But Mr. Bradbury would come in and he'd say, look, I was traveling to Indonesia. I realized I could only have 2 bottles of alcohol limit, blah, blah, blah. So I figured out that if I did, and then I did, and then I received this much money, and So like a kid like him or a kid like me, he's like, oh shit, that's cool. You know, that's interesting. That's economics in the real world. Like, so I think I would guess that most of the teachers, for myself, for you, or for him, or whoever has a similar feeling, just taught by the book.
Yeah.
They didn't teach the people. They didn't teach the people like people. So he can talk about martial arts, that story, and I want to hear if it's the same one I'm thinking of. But I think a lot of us end up in martial arts because automatically it's a place where you show something, then you get reward for it. Exactly. And you're like, oh shit, I can do this, you know? And so we all end up black belts or world champion, whatever it is, just because we're like competence breeds confidence. And it's so sad that kids don't get that as from the get-go. But that's what it is. All right, let's hear the story.
Let's see the story, Dylan.
So there's actually a school now down the road from here. It's called something Learning Village. It's a really new school. It's actually a experimental school. Actually, a lot of the kids that come here go to it. They don't wear school uniforms, which I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. Let's not go into it. It's a boring topic. And they actually find what they're interested in, and they assign them the subjects based on what they're interested in.
Yeah, similar to Montessori or
it might even be. Yeah, that one.
My only criticism of that is it attracts parents who go into that for the wrong reason, which can sort of not have the results you want. But
Yeah.
Why did you start martial arts?
Do you want to tell the story?
Well, we were 4 when we started martial arts, but Dylan never really got into karate either. I loved it from the get-go.
Yep.
Judo and karate and all the books and reading and this and that. He was good at it, but wasn't really
I was
into
the grunt.
Yeah.
Like I wanted to.
Just go.
You were good at it. He was a state champ at karate, but he didn't like get his uniform ready to go after school. But what was the moment where you were like, I'm doing martial arts?
Tell the story?
No, you tell it.
So
Well, I don't know
Liam,
which story it is.
it's the firecracker story. Oh, you can butt in if you want.
Okay.
Okay. So basically, I was already doing, we were trying to find Muay Thai. I think it was year 10. So
were
Liam
boxing,
was
right?
already finished school when I was in year 10.
Yeah.
Okay. So that means he had already been going to Brazil. He'd already been to Thailand. He had already been competing in, I think, MMA and jiu-jitsu and all types of stuff already, right? And I was still in year 10, right? So we were, I can't remember what we were doing. I think we were renovating the house. So Liam was already competing, doing stuff. And then we were like going around Sydney side story that we're just trying to
You were
find
boxing,
a,
right? You were
I was
boxing.
boxing since I was like, I don't know, 12, 13. We're going to Hornsby Peacewise in North Sydney.
Yep.
Some local
I've got
guys.
a funny story about that. Too.
Yeah.
We had a coach who used to do a box check knowing we weren't wearing boxes.
He died.
He's dead now.
He died. He had a stroke and died.
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
He got punished.
Nah, he was like 95 years
Yeah,
old.
he was pretty old back then. Yeah, you got the box on,
Oh,
bud.
you got your box? Just checking.
No,
Dude, we don't wear boxes.
I'm 13.
You
I
know
don't even know
that.
I'm a guy.
yeah.
Like, I haven't figured that out yet. So Liam was already, he was already competing out to etc. I was in year 10. It was around about then.
I know
And then, so I was we were going around Sydney trying to find Muay Thai. Muay Thai didn't actually exist till I was finished school. So it's like 2001.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't really exist. There was a couple of like,
Well,
I
I
won't
mean,
say
Nick
there was
Stone
karate.
and stuff. It was
I
some-
didn't even know about Nick Stone.
There
But
may
there were
be
karate
Zen
places
stuff.
that said that they were kickboxing.
Yeah.
But it was just a bit, we did a couple, whatever. But anyway, so I was kind of into it, and Liam was, teaching out of a garage.
Oh, yeah, okay. Good.
So we were renovating the house, or we were moving out. I can't remember, something like that. I think we were renovate the house, packing, and I found these bungers from South Africa.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is going to be so funny.
It's a cherry bomb for people.
Yeah, they're like that big.
Yeah.
I was like,
Were they the ones that you could throw in the toilet and they'd
nah,
still go?
they were just like
They're
thin
little
ones.
smaller than that.
Yeah,
Kind of like
like-
the Chinese New Year.
Yeah,
crackers.
It's little
Firecracker,
thin ones.
yeah,
Like, it's not
fire-
going to hurt.
yeah.
Anyway.
Well,
So I was like, and Mum was in the kitchen. I was at the bottom of the stairs. I go, oi, Liam. And I lit it, and I went, phew. And I didn't realize he would come right over
head
as
over the top.
and it went, kaboom.
my
And I was
eye.
like, oh, crap. And he ran down the stairs, and I can't remember exactly what he did. I think he like grabbed me. I was like, you
I
slapped
remember
me?
I slapped him.
And I
then he
overhanded
me in the jaw. And I was like, what the hell?
I overhand him.
And the
I'll
thing
tell
is,
my
I was
story of it.
training. I was training with Matt Thornton at the time, who was he was going the clinch. Everything was clinched.
It wasn't a crazy monkey.
I can't remember, but he punched me.
was Crazy
I don't-
Monkey? I can't
Oh, there
remember.
was Crazy Monkey, but yeah.
All right. So, yeah, and Liam clinched me, and I'm like, what the shit is this?
Yeah.
Like, I don't know this crap. And then I was like, duh, and he was like pretending to me, or it was
I
near
didn't
me. It
hit
wasn't
him
like,
hard.
it wasn't
I
like,
was
it
my
wasn't
brother.
hard. He was just like controlling me.
Yeah.
And I was like, duh. And then like I ran up the stairs. I was probably like 16. Ran up the stairs, and Liam pinned me because he's already in jiu-jitsu,
Oh, I
like
remember
mount.
that, yeah.
And I was like, how do I get out of this? And we already did a lot of wrestling, but I was like, mount? What is this mount stuff?
Remember now.
And then Liam,
Mum
and then Liam
came
was
running.
slapping me. I was like, I can't move.
No,
Like,
he
pinned
wasn't
me.
crying. He was going, Mum, Liam's using his jiu-jitsu
I
again.
did actually. That's true. That's true.
My poor mum came running, and remember what happened to her, which is your fault.
She got her shoe and tried to smack
She had
Liam.
her shoe, and I hit the shoe.
And he hit
her. It's like, oh, my poor mum. My mum was a fourth degree black belt. She wasn't like a wimp or anything.
Yeah.
So it was constantly like what Dylan would do is he'd walk up and he'd like hit me on the back of the head and then run, and then I'd double leg him, catch him and mount him again or knee ride, and he'd be like, Mom, Liam's using his jiu-jitsu again.
Oh,
And
we
I'd
missed
get in
out.
trouble.
We missed out a part when Liam, when I did the overhand, he clinched me. I got like it was like a cordial bottle. I was like, I hate you. And
Okay, it wasn't that emotional.
Threw-
It was kind of
I just remember being 16, and I threw the bottle
it went through the window.
and just went through, smashed this whole window.
Oh,
I was like,
shit.
I'm gonna get such a big smack tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so that was kind of the point where I was like, I felt useless. That was
Yeah.
the first time I actually thought I was invincible at 16.
You
Like
were, you were
literally.
a tough kid, man.
I thought I was invincible. Like I actually, like look at some of the kids now at the gym. I thought I could take on dudes. That, do you remember I was at high school? I went in year 7. I did full prison style where I went up to the biggest guy, and he was a big dude, big Asian guy. And I said
that's
to
why
him,
you left.
yeah,
That's why you
no,
left
it wasn't.
school.
It was something else. But I went to him and my friend and I, Nick Longley, who's actually Luke Longley, the basketball player.
brother?
Yeah, no, it was his cousin.
Okay.
And we went to him and go, hey, this guy looks like Goliath. Like, Goliath, let's make him, mate. This guy need me so badly. I was like, oh God. They were like, I was tiny. Got the little crap beat out of me. But I think that was the time when we had the incident at home where I realized, like, I didn't feel like I had control. And I felt very vulnerable on the ground. I couldn't move. I felt claustrophobic being pinned. And then I was like, shit, man, I need to learn this stuff. Like, I've never felt that before. I've never been pinned.
There's another part to this story. So I used to coach in my garage for a while because there just weren't schools around that did MMA or jiu-jitsu properly. There was maybe one in Manly, and it wasn't. The
highest belt was like purple, wasn't it?
The highest belt was blue in Sydney at that time, right?
Mm.
So I'm teaching my garage, everything I'm learning and going overseas and stuff. I was probably purple then. And I remember I had a friend, Levi, who had a very attractive sister.
Oh, yeah.
And so Dylan suddenly started showing up to training just to let them know that I have a younger brother who's the same age as her. And suddenly Dylan's trying to earn his blue belt. And so there was a little bit of a...
Girls motivate me, they motivate me.
That's true.
I was 16.
Yep.
It's funny how that changes.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, various things. But like the thing is, we were at home watching the UFC tapes we'd brought back from England from a family holiday, and like we were into it really early, basically. But I do think most younger brothers end up better at sport because their older brothers make them feel helpless for a bit.
Yeah. I think that was like a quite a shifting moment when I was like, oh, like I actually respected him a bit. I was like, crap. Like I really thought I was invincible. I just thought I could knock everybody out. Not that I wanted to. I just didn't have any fear at all. No fear.
We all remember high school. Like, so were you doing kung fu in high school?
Yeah.
So I was doing karate and a bit of judo, but judo wasn't really respected back then.
Yeah.
Yet, because UFC hadn't really hit properly. But you know, I was doing karate, and there were a couple of karate kids there and taekwondo kids and stuff, and they were all good, and people would avoid fighting them. But we all knew there was just one crazy Russian kid or one crazy kid who could kill everybody with nothing.
Yeah.
Like, so we all knew in the back of our head that karate and kung fu wouldn't really stand up against like a rugby player who's a bit nutty, you know what I mean? So we knew that. And I think Dylan was tough and he was in boxing, but once he felt getting clinched and taken down and pinned, it's like, oh, I'm not that crazy kid who can just beat up the karate kid anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so it's kind of, we kind of knew subconsciously, but then he really got into it when, basically, we had a friend, Mick, who lived up the road, who was a Muay Thai state champ.
Yep.
And Mick and I were going to open a gym together because there just wasn't MMA around. Like, Larry Papadopoulos was doing
Boxing Works.
Shudo at Boxing Works, and Anthony Lang was doing shoot fighting. But I was going to America, and it was just different to what I had seen there. Not better or worse, it's just different, obviously. Shudo's still good, right? But it was different to what I was seeing happening, the evolution of this new martial art of NHB at the time. Was happening, and so Dylan and I started coaching it so we could learn it. Yeah, and then I remember Dylan got into Muay Thai, and he was having local fights, but Mick was a champ, and we were going to go in together. And Dylan said to me, he goes, "Don't go into business with Mick." He goes, "I know I'm not a champ yet, but I really like this." He goes, "Just give me a year, and we'll do this together." And so he went and competed and got much better. And that's why we almost didn't have VT1. We almost. I almost went into partnership with somebody else. But there is another reason why Dylan got into Muay Thai, if you'd like to hear that one.
What's that one?
You want to hear? I'm talking about when... So Dylan basically signed up, and I'm not going to say what it was. He had a girl whose parents were very romantic and convinced him, and we're going to call them French today for this example to keep it neutral.
It's the French Legionnaires.
The French Legionnaires. So Dylan signs up for the Legionnaires.
Okay.
It wasn't the Legionnaires, it was the equivalent. We can't get into. He doesn't tell my parents, and I know this, and my parents don't know this.
And by the way, I was running. This is like year 11, year 12. I was running at night when everyone was asleep with a stick in my hand around Kalara, so I could get used to like carrying a gun in my hand. Can you imagine seeing me Kalara with a
He wanted
stick?
to be in the freaking Legionnaires, so he signed up. He actually signed up and he bought his ticket. And he was just going to call my parents from wherever the hell that is.
It's actually true.
And just tell them about it. Yeah. Now, you can substitute whichever country you want in for that. The reason we're not mentioning is because when we were on the Joe Rogan show, we received about 1,000 death threats from telling the actual story. But anyway, so he's going to the French Legionnaires. I think, fuck, I can't let him do this. This is crazy. And I snitch on him with my parents. And my parents, try to talk him out of it.
I was going. Like 1 week later, I was gone.
Yeah, wow.
My dad was in the army and he had some traumatic experiences and he kind of like blew the romance off it for Dylan a little bit. Like, you know, he told him what actually happens when you're in the army. It's boring, it's traumatic, it's all sorts of stuff, right? In hindsight, he should have probably gone, but that's a different story. And so what they did was you couldn't go to this country without going to Thailand first. There's no direct flight from Australia.
Yep.
And so they paid for me to go with him to make sure he didn't get on the next flight.
It's true.
And so I was like, well, we're here. Let's do Muay Thai.
Yeah.
3 months later, he's fighting in Thailand, Muay Thai, on a dirt floor with a ring in it against some taxi driver with 400 fights.
It's in Koh Phangan.
In Koh Phangan, and he won.
Okay, so the taxi driver had 400 fights, but he just wasn't very good.
He'd already had 10 years of boxing and karate, and he was good, the taxi driver, but, you know, obviously he's not in his tip-top shape. He looked good. So we're standing there, and he's like, man, it was just like watching kickboxing. This dude is punching this like metal pole on the fucking side, looking at us.
I said to him no elbows as well, because we didn't know about elbows in Australia. Like it wasn't a thing, and it was kickboxing in Australia, right?
Yeah.
That didn't last long.
This dude's
So he started elbowing after second,
like,
third round?
No, it didn't
go
that long.
round.
Oh.
I've never been past round 2 in Thailand, ever.
Really?
Never. I've always.
Did you always just come out of the gate a lot faster?
No.
Because the Thai style, like a lot of the Thai guys, they just take it a bit easy in the first round. And I
not
feel
what
like
I thought. Then they picked it up. They picked it up pretty quick.
They tried it. There was a couple of times when he was fighting. We're getting a bit off. We'll come back to that. When he was fighting in Topic in Thailand, where because we were fighting at the same stadium all the time, they actually started giving him ringers. And the first round, I was like, oh shit, they're going to hurt Dylan. But Dylan was lucky. Dylan basically was a Thai person at that stage, and we can explain why later. I think John Wayne Park covers this a little bit in his first Joe Rogan one about trying to Thai culture and acceptance. But he had a coach, Jun, who was very smart and actually treated Dylan like proper family, not just like Westerner family, but like proper family. And he knew that guy could be knocked out with a left hook. And if you throw that guy, he sort of falls funny. And so he'd kind of be like, Dylan, left hook. And Dylan would knock. And we were like, what the fuck? Like, he had like an actual Mr. Miyagi who looked after him. Yeah. He was lucky because some of those fighters were not Western. They were like Bangkok fighters that were brought down to beat him. But he was so up in the sport and he kind of knew the things Dylan was good at and they were bad at enough to just get him through those fights. There was a couple of shifty times where the first round I was like, holy shit.
I remember leaning back, the guy kicked me and I was like, I just like saw a flash and he had these massive legs and I was like, holy shit, thank God I knocked him out quick because like that was going to be a tough fight. That was going to be really tough.
Yeah, and you know, he went through the phase of, you know, and they do this with Westerners, they give them easier fights and smaller ties and then sometimes a bigger but out of shape tie. But he was really, really lucky to, be good, of course, that helps, but also have a Thai trainer who actually cared about him enough to really guide him through that and get him through that because it can be... Westerners have no idea how good Thais are. Like, I know they think they do. They go to Phuket, and they're good Thais in Phuket, but in the real weight divisions, and you've got to correct me on this, but in the real weight divisions, not the above 60, I'm talking about kind of like 60 and below, where they have 400-500 people in each division.
A bit more than that.
Westerners never been number one in Lumpini. In those divisions, we talk about, he was a Lumpini champ. Yeah, but that was 75 kilos.
In the good days,
Even now, has there been a
There's not a lot of big ties. I very rarely see ties.
Has there been a Westerner number one in Lumpini?
Well, Raymond Decker was.
But he was Ratchanen, wasn't he?
I think it was Lumpini.
He was only top 10 in Lumpini.
Yeah.
And he was also a bigger weight class.
I don't see a lot of ties that are bigger than, like, I don't see a lot of big ties.
Yeah.
They're just, the talent pool is not there.
Yeah.
So if you're in a under 60 class, you have literally zero chance of winning, being number one in Lumpini. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, people there, but that's my understanding. One, because of the rules. Two, because of the talent pool. And it's just it's impossible.
These kids were like supporting whole huge families on just one fighter. Yeah. They'll fight you to the death.
You go to a good Thai camp or any Thai camp, and there'll be such a talent pool in that Thai camp of people you've never heard of that aren't ranked that will throw you through the freaking ropes.
And Westerners won't even be able to. Even their big grade fighters, the light guys struggled,
We just, nowadays, we're watching all the 1FC. Those guys are putting on weight to fight heavier guys in kickboxing rules, and they're all ex-champs. They're not the number one guy in Lumpini right now fighting. It's just, you can't.
It's just like
but even late. Even like you take a guy like Nong O, right? Like he's a dinosaur. Like when you think about it, like,
he's
at the end of his career and he's still destroying people.
Even Bokau, who's awesome, is in a weight division where there's not that many ties. And he was, I don't think he was never Lumpini champ. He was Ratchanen, I think, but he wasn't Lumpini.
I never looked it up. I just follow him more.
But the point is, Bokau's not even a top level Thai. You know, he's very good, but like, so people do not understand the depth of talent in Thailand. It's. I mean, even Dylan, who was a world champion, is realistic about the fact he wasn't number one in Lumpini. There's levels, you know. It's not. There's just experience levels of 200 fights by the time you're 21. You just can't. It's impossible.
Oh, they're normally retired tournament. They've had that 13 years old. They fight let's say 40 times a year. Some of these kids that like need to support their families. After 5 years, that's already 200 fights.
Yeah.
And they started 8. So they're 12 years old. They've had 200 fights. I mean, they're trying to stop that now. They're trying to like, they're limited like once a month type thing now.
Yeah. So, okay, there's 2 questions I've got. The first one is, why do you think this Jun took you under his wing? Like, I guess, what was it about you that helped you foster this mentoring relationship that you found with this guy?
So I was training, I'm not going to mention the camp. I was training at a camp.
They're a great camp too.
I just actually popped past there recently and just had a look at it. And actually, there was 1 or 2 trainees there. I got my wife a private lesson because I knew who they were. And some of the trainees there I've known for like 20 years. They were my original coaches. They move around a lot. It's really weird. It's kind of...
They die a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
They die a lot.
Yeah. They move around camps and it's kind of like, anyway. So I was fighting out of there and I went there and like there was a magazine back in the day called Kickboxer, Kickboxing magazine. It was an awesome magazine. I'll tell you a story that my coach wrote about me in that magazine later. I'll kill him. But basically, but basically it was kind of advertised. We all went to that one. And I went there and I trained and I was fine out of there, but I just didn't feel like I was getting a lot of attention at the nights. It was a really rundown camp. And there was people we called them heroes.
Sorry, I know which camp you're talking about.
Yeah, we call. I don't want to defame it because it was actually a really good camp now.
It was a Western-friendly camp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there were people called heroes. There would just be a bunch of like Europeans that would come there and like they'll just try and knock you out in every session.
Yeah.
And I was small. I was tiny. These guys were huge. Then I think Liam said, hey, listen, there's this camp up the road on the main road. It was called Pinyo back then. It's not. It's changed names now. Pinyo. And there's this guy called Jun.
And Mr. Wed.
Mr. Wed and Jun. And they really like looked at me and like they really gave it their all. I think it was his camp, so he really wanted to do well. They really gave them all. So I was doing training in the evening at the one camp, and then I'd go and do privates, like sneaking inside and do privates with them. And then after that fight, I was like, why are we just not with these guys? These guys are great. And they were very funny. All the Thai trainers used to like joke and be silly and Sanuk, be silly and bring fun into everyday life. And it was just such a good camp. There wasn't a lot of Westerners back there in that. It was a Western camp. But
the thing is, Dylan and I have approached martial arts the same no matter where we go, which is to find the biggest, scariest guy in the room and tease him till he beats us up. and the thing is that's actually, in a weird way, like they used to call him Ling Noi, like little monkey. And the thing is, we would go up and like tease him and like, oh man, your right kick's not so strong. Let me feel it. Ow! But the thing is, they start to become fond of that after a while. You know?
Yeah. And they had some really, it's called Pinyo back then. They had 17, guys 18, like Joe Sidisak. He actually fought in America. I can't remember his name. He's bald, got tattoos everywhere. It's not Joe Schilling. It's the other guy, Ross.
I know you're talking about with the really good throws.
Kevin Ross. Kevin Ross.
Yeah.
Brilliant fighter. I love Kevin Ross. And he fought him. There's a very famous photo of him elbowing Kevin Ross, and I think he won that. So he was my clinch partner, literally. And there was Bin, who was very famous fighting Westerners, and he was just one of the best clinchers in Thailand.
What was he got banned? Bang?
Oh, he got Bang, yeah.
We'll talk about
Big
Bang.
fat Bang.
We'll talk about Bang afterwards.
Talk about him drinking, then got a fight. So like I think that the thing with him is, like Liam said, I think he really took care of me. They put a lot of effort into me. It was a fun environment. They made us feel like a part of the family. And that was a big success. That's why Pinyo was so successful. Like they had very loyal clients. And then they split and Jun ended up opening his own gym. It was just a management. I thought Jun was the owner, actually. I didn't even know he wasn't the owner.
Yeah.
And then I just kind of followed Jun. I've been with him for 20 years.
There's a difference, but, so I think a lot of people were coming to Muay Thai, are coming to Thailand, and the Thais are very accommodating. But like most Asian cultures, there's different faces and there's different, so the smiles and happiness. Oh, sway, kick. It's very different coming as a 17, 18. Well, I was probably 20. He was like 17, 18. Going there as like 17, 18-year-olds with not really much expectations and just like sleeping on the mats with the Thais, eating their dinner with the Thais, being cheeky, being fun and not bringing that Western sort of
Yeah.
thing. And we
Yeah.
would see the guys come in, hold pads for me, here's $20. It's a pack of cigarettes.
Yeah.
And we'd go in there and, you know, obviously we didn't do everything right, but it's very different going in fresh-faced and trying to learn the language, learn the culture, going to the fights with them and wrapping hands with them. Like, you know, holding pads for the kids there, like really trying
It's
to...
fun. Like we'd go there at like 5 o'clock and leave at like 8:30, 9. We'd just hang out there. Like we didn't, I don't think we even had
Probably
Facebook
also
back
helped
then.
we were doing it 5 times a year for about 10 years.
Yeah.
Because what happens, the Westerners come and then they don't come back for 2 years.
Yeah.
We were going back all the time,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
the time.
And
all the
also
time.
one thing that I did, I don't know if people do this, but one thing I don't know if we decided to do this, but like I'd make like say 5,000 baht, 10,000 baht. I never got paid much anyway for my fights.
Yeah.
Okay, which is like $400 depending on the fight. And I'd normally take 1,000 for a bottle of Absolute vodka. Always drank Absolute vodka, you know, from 7-Eleven, and I'd give the rest of the money to my coach because I didn't like I needed the money, but I didn't really like. I'd work in Sydney and then come here, go to Thailand.
Yeah, it wasn't about the
train.
money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't think he cared. That I know he didn't care. He wasn't like, yes, I'll give more fights. He actually didn't get me more fights all the time to get money. He actually took really good care of me.
Yeah.
He's an amazing human being. Jun is...
He married a Western girl who's
Yeah.
a lovely lady as well.
Yeah, Sammy ended up marrying an English girl. And do you know how they met? No, I won't say. It's a boring story.
It's not
Anyway.
for the people listening.
Yeah, it's a boring story. Anyway, so... but yeah, and I think with Jun, I noticed something with him, and I still see it to this day. Jun will literally... Like during COVID, for example, he has... like accommodation at the back, there's huts and stuff at the back, and he feeds his trainers and he pays insurance, right? And he pays them standard rate. I don't know what it is, maybe 10,000,
They're not buying
12,000 baht.
Porsches with it. But
Yeah. But they do. That's why a lot of the Thais, even the older guys, still fight because they get paid, 1 month wage in one day. But during COVID, he still kept all of them fed, clothed, everything there. They couldn't do anything. Like Thailand was people were lining up for 4 hours to get 100 baht, which is $4. That's like the handouts they got once a week.
Yeah.
So he took care of everybody. Someone needs a job, Jun takes them in. Of course, what do? They always keep screwing them over. They find a better job or they get a better offer. And Jun will just take anyone. Doesn't matter how many times like you screw him over, he'll just keep taking you in. And he's that type of person. Like sometimes I hit him up. I'm like, Jun, you got to collect money off people. He's like, no, I trust them. People are honest. I'm like, no, they're not. None of these people are honest.
Well, he ended up in trouble because of that. One of his trainers was not so honest, and he ended up having a situation with he tried to take care of somebody who was one of his trainers that was a troublemaker.
Yeah.
And he ended up getting like some serious head. It was
Oh,
like
yeah,
a
he got
gang
bottled.
thing, and he's not a gangster, but he tried to help a guy out, and he ended up with brain
In the
swelling
crossfire.
and just like really nasty stuff. But lovely guy. And the thing is, like nowadays a lot of people don't understand, and it's tougher because I get why, because people get taken advantage of. Taken advantage of. But to just really commit to a mentor or somebody, people don't do that anymore. And it's in Kung Fu they do, but and I get it because people use loyalty, family, brotherhood.
Yeah.
But Jun's never mentioned that anyway. Jun is a great trainer, right? But Dylan didn't expect him to know everything. He went and got boxing lessons, and then he got Nick Stone in Sydney, and he learns from Nick, and then he goes to Jun. He doesn't expect Jun to get up in the morning and go jogging for him, or to eat healthy for him.
They didn't.
You got to commit. Yeah.
Well, no, but the point is that people don't. They have a very unhealthy relationship to what mentoring actually is.
Yeah.
And it's a very simple thing. Dylan trusts Jun. Jun trusts Dylan. Their actions show they can trust each other. Jun's more experienced than Dylan, obviously. He was a champion. And, Jun's job is to work with Dylan on the journey.
Yeah.
And as a result, Dylan's committed to him. And, at this stage, he's getting older. He can't hold pads as much, but we still go there.
I saw him like in January. I was there
we
for a
took
couple
the
of
family,
weeks.
and he trained our kids.
Oh, that's nice.
So it was nice to have our coach train our kids. But he's just got a very special relationship with Jun. I never had that relationship with Jun. I had it more with my jiu-jitsu coaches. But it's not complicated. It's
one of those things. So like the difference I'd sort of ascribe to a mentor is like, so a teacher as an example can teach you knowledge, right? So as an example, it could be like learning the alphabet, learning how to read, and learning, like giving you that knowledge of how to understand these things, right?
Yes.
But the goal of a mentor is actually slightly different. And I know they cross over a lot, but I would say a mentor's role is basically to give you a map in terms of, okay, this is the destination you want to go. These are the potential shortfalls or pitfalls that we're going to meet as we go on this journey. So if the goal is that, hey, you want to fight in Lumpini, okay, these are the things that we're going to come up against. And so and that's why I say there's crossovers, because a lot of the times your teacher could be your mentor as well, right? They're teaching you the physical skills of how to fight in Muay Thai, and they're also trying to explain to you about how we got to progress you to get to this level.
Yeah.
But sometimes in life, your mentor could be totally different to who your teacher was. So as an example,
100%.
your high school teachers, right? They give you all this knowledge, or you go to uni and you study accounting or whatever degree that you do.
Yeah.
But then you go into business, and then you realize, those teachers are giving you the knowledge, but they didn't really say to you, give you the wisdom from the experience of how to get there. And that's what the mentor is there to do. You know, and going back to what you're saying about the therapist, right? Like the therapist, you've already had these experiences. Yeah. Now it's about having somebody to take that, bird's eye view with you.
Yes.
To better understand, okay, what did those experiences actually give you? Or what are some of the reasons why you keep making the same mistakes?
Yes.
Right? You may not be able to see the recurring pattern that, whether you don't feel like you're good enough. Yeah. And you keep repeating that pattern and self-sabotaging yourself.
Yeah.
So, and part of the reason why I've done a lot of thinking in terms of what's the difference between a teacher and a mentor is because, in Kung Fu, a lot of people will value the master, right? And it's a very patriarchal sort of system in the sense that, you sort of look at your master like the oracle. They've got all the answers.
It's Confucianist.
Very Confucianist sort of ideology, right? I was giving this example with Zach. I didn't do it on the podcast, so I'll give it again now. But let's take John Danaher as an example, right?
He's a teacher of mine.
Yeah, right? So we say, okay, let's say for all intents and purposes, current jiu-jitsu knowledge is...
I say that very deliberately, by the way.
all jiu-jitsu knowledge, that can be attained. Well, John Danaher has 100% of that knowledge, right? And so the problem with the traditional mindset that is ascribed to most traditional arts is okay, if John Danaher is the oracle, well, I'm going to do my best to learn as much as I can, but I may only get to 80% of John Danaher's knowledge, right? Yeah. And so with my 80% of John Danaher's knowledge, I'm still better than the majority of the people in the world.
Yeah,
and I can now teach. True. But if I have the same mindset that, well, my student is only ever going to get to 80% of my ability, in 2 generations down, well, that next generation only gets 80% of me. So that's 64% of what the true knowledge of jiu-jitsu is, right? And so, using that as an example, over long term, basically you end up learning very minimal,
100%,
right? And that's the problem with the traditional mindset. Whereas, and this isn't what John Danaher's mindset is, because I'm sure John would expect his students to be better than him, right? Or to try and learn.
I can't comment.
Yeah. Well, it's he's providing this knowledge and also trying to give you the tools so that you can also make sense of things and answer the problems yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So the reason why, he
he already has in a way because he was never a competitor.
Yeah.
So he's, as a traditional coach, he's been very successful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
can he coach someone to coach like him? That's a good question.
Well, can he coach someone to coach better than him?
Better than him.
Yeah.
And that applies to parents.
Yes.
One of the common things I find with people my age, maybe you found this as well, is not taking your parents' financial advice.
Yeah, of course.
Or your parents' financial plan. Because even if they're successful, you'll only be less successful than them.
Yep.
Because they come from that Confucius background. Not necessarily Chinese parents, but I just mean that do what I say, this is correct. And it's something that everyone has to grapple with a lot, especially with dealing with their own parents as they get older.
Yeah, I think that's one of the hardest things. Even for me, stepping out of your parents' shadows, especially in Asian households, right? A lot of Asian kids, they'll stay at home until they get married. That's the only time that they move out. And with that, even though you do get looked after when you're at home, you don't have to pay rent, generally in an Asian household, you wouldn't have to pay rent. Your mum still wants to mother you. You get all your laundry done, you get all these other things done.
I can tell you coming from our background, it's no different.
Right? So I think a lot of ethnic cultures are very similar from that perspective. But, then as a result of living in your parents' household, you have this caveat that, you've got to listen to their rules.
Yes.
And you have to believe, I guess, see the world through their lenses as well.
Yeah.
But the unfortunate thing is that the world that they grew up in, it could be very different to the world that we've grown up in. Yeah. So I know my mum loves me very much, and don't get me wrong, I love her, immensely as well. But if I was to listen to her advice, I'd basically do nothing. I'd stay at home and I'd just do nothing. It was
stay safe.
Yeah. When I wanted to get the experience of trying the political thing, she was like, "Don't do that." And it's like, funny, don't fight, don't do this, don't do that. You never do anything.
As a coach, it's very important to help your students break away from you, to come back to you, and renegotiate your relationship with them, which is very hard. It's very challenging. And I think one thing that Jun did really well with Dylan was, and what mentors I think should do, is they should want to help you with what you want, not what they want.
Yeah.
Now, sometimes they can see what you want better than you can. That's a different topic. But Jun never pushed Dylan to fight. Jun never said, we're doing this or we're doing... Nick Stone was the same. So Nick Stone...
Yeah, so Nick Stone and Jun are very similar. I think that's why I was attracted. I tried a few different gyms.
I think everyone's attracted to Nick Stone.
Yeah, he's a very handsome man. But Nick Stone, well, Nick Stone's just a big kid like me. But he was very similar to Jun. Like, very, very... So I was very lucky to have two coaches that were very caring and really actually cared about
And
my
tough.
journey.
Tough love too.
And it was good to have him in our corner. I really always felt safe with Nick in my corner. I mean, he tried some funny stuff. I remember one time he's like, okay, Dylan, we've got an Australian title fight. I was down at DY fighting some Thai. He actually looked young and tough. And I was like, I'm going to destroy you. I brought like, I don't know, there's hundreds of people there. And Nick's like, okay, watch this. So I've been, some of the things Nick comes up with. I love this guy.
I mean, Nick's trained the McKinnon brothers, like a bunch of world champions. You know, like he's one of the best ever in Australian, like, coaching history.
Yeah, but some of the story, I could tell some stories. But anyway, and Nick comes back, goes, okay, Dylan, so I've been watching this stuff on, I don't know if it was YouTube or whatever it was back then, and he's like, okay, we do some hypnosis. I'm like, what the hell? Like, you know, kick my...
Funny enough, because we do that with our own students.
Yeah, but this is like 15 years ago, and he goes, okay, now watch my fingers, like, you are invincible, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just then like, I want to go out and destroy this person. He's like, calm down. You are invincible. I'm like, what the hell?
But you know what Nick does, like Jun, which is really hard to do, and it is a sign of someone, I don't want to use the word master, but when we refer to master for the conversation, it should be someone who's on the path to improvement.
Mastery. Yeah.
And is just doing that, right? So, because no one reaches it, right? Nick kind of understands what's important and what's not. So he can fuck around backstage because he's done the work. He knows what, he knows he knows Dylan's personality.
Yeah.
He knows he'll be all right. So he doesn't get into too many fancy weird things because he knows what makes people win.
Yeah.
And Jun, I think, is very much like that. And hopefully we are too, but Jun's very much like
Yeah.
that.
I used to rock up to training. I'll tell you one thing I really liked about Nick's training was that I never knew what I was going to do that day.
Yeah.
And like Nick would be like, all right, Dylan, so we've been running this competition for like 10 years. I'm like, no, you haven't. I've known you for that long. And he's like, so I'm going to go on my scooter. I'm going to attach this harness. Nick's 120 kilograms back then. He's a huge boy. You don't realize how big
He doesn't look that big.
He doesn't look big. He's solid as. And he's like, okay, you got to run me around this golf course in Balgala and you have to beat 2 minutes 50. Like I couldn't even drive around there in 2 minutes 50. And I'm pulling him and he's on his scooter and I'm dragging him around in like 40-degree heat. And he's like, you better hurry up, mate. And I'm like, what is this? Like I'm 59 kilograms.
But Nick wears his statement on his sleeve. So his gym is Bulldog Gym.
Yep.
All Bulldog fighters have the same thing. They're well conditioned.
Yep.
And they have big spirits. And that is really Nick understands in combat. Technical skill is important. You can't really make someone technical. You can do it. You can try as hard as you want, but he can build spirit and he can build conditioning. And that is the most
belief as well.
And well, that's what I mean by spirit.
Yeah.
Well, that's
build spirit.
That's a big Thai thing, right? They always talk about Jaisu, the heart.
Yeah.
Right? So, you can, when you're in the ring, you need the heart to be able to go through all the pain and the suffering, you got to be able to throw those kicks with reckless abandon and not worry too much about, the repercussions until after.
I had a Russian Sambo coach who wasn't very technical, but he was good. He was number 1 or number 2 in fucking Siberia or something like that. Anyway, and he said to me, what makes someone tough? What's the formula? Like, what makes someone tough? And I was like, I don't know. And he goes, conditioning plus belief in your training is what makes people tough. And later on, someone changed that a bit to belief you can finish the fight. So your conditioning plus belief you can finish the fight equals toughness. And I think that's what spirit or heart is if you believe in your training, it doesn't even matter what training you're doing. As long as you believe in it and you're in good condition, you'll keep fighting. You'll be undermount. You'll keep fighting.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Nick, I remember. I just remember these like flashbacks. It's like I don't know if I'm got PTSD from some of the things he made us do. He's like, all right, you and Joanna are gonna meet me at Queenscliff Beach, which is like Manly Beach, left side. And I think it was Queenscliff. It was one of the beaches down there. Anyway, I had a pool on the left side. And Joanna was also a world champion. She had about 40-something fights. She actually coached here like later on for quite a few years. Pretty good, like really a top fighter for like she moved well. We fought in Jamaica together. We fought in Cyprus together. We went around Australia. Anyway, he goes, okay, you and Joanna are going to meet me at this beach. Yeah. And Joanna was like one of my best friends. Like we had a really good connection. And he was like, all right, so here's some Hessian bags. And whoever doesn't, you got to dig a hole. And after 1 minute, whoever's got the most shallow hole has to like swim out to like some stupid boy out there. Like it was just ridiculous. Then he would make us go into the pool on the side. It was like a 50-meter pool. It was about 50 meters. Firstly, I sink. I don't know. I didn't have any body fat. I wasn't like, I'm not a bad swimmer, but I wasn't an efficient swimmer. And he'd be like, all right, you got to go there and back. And whoever's last, I'm going to hold underwater. So Joanna's like this thin, tall thing.
Probably doesn't swim
smashes.
that well as well,
yeah, exactly.
Not Australian.
We go back, and then I come back, and Nick goes, all right, we're going to focus on your breathing. He just dunks me underwater for like 30 seconds and just held me underwater. Like I thought I was going to die.
You got to understand, Dylan trusted him enough to know that it was like, you can't just do that to a stranger. Like, okay, Nick's
but he was like,
something.
All right, so this is your breathing exercise. I'm like, where do you get this from? Like, what forum?
It reminds me of the time when they were fighting in Jamaica where Nick got him and 120 kilo Samoan Eric to take sleeping tablets, and as Dylan was passing out, he...
That was Cyprus.
It was Cyprus. He reminded Dylan that Eric hadn't taken the tablet and he had a crush on Dylan. That was a joke. It was a joke. But imagine the last thing you see before you're passing out.
Dude, it was still knocks. It was strong, and he looked at me and goes...
Oh, you were having...
I can't wait to spread your butt cheeks when you fall asleep. And he's like, he's massive.
But also, Nick
I was like, no, stay awake.
Nick was having a competition with them who could stay the wake the longest while taking still knocks. So they were staring each other down. But you got to understand that's who Nick is. Nick understands competitiveness is important. You know, you got to build it. If you, I don't know Nick as well as Dylan, but if you play chess with him, he tries to beat you. Like people who are good competitors are competitive in everything.
Yeah.
Like, you know, Richard Walsh is a good example, one of our UFC fighters. He was not a tough kid growing up. He went to a private school, right? When he's fighting, you're like, this dude's tough. And in training, Richie wasn't tough. Richie can play on my sword and this and that. But what Richie is competitive.
Yeah. They can switch it on.
He can switch it on, but he was also competitive in other aspects. Oh, let's have a running race, Rich. Oh, man, boom, let's get that girl to talk to us. Obviously, we're not married.
Yeah.
Let's... That's a bad example, but like, you know, let's who can catch the ball the most amount of times. Let's bounce and catch. Like, competitive people are always competitive. Dylan's very competitive.
Very.
Doesn't mean you can't be
Just
calm.
see me on Nintendo Switch.
But he's very competitive.
I lose a lot.
Competitive trumps toughness every time. And Nick understood what's important and competitiveness. Even as a joke, take a still knocks. Let's see he's competitive. He's what's it called?
Still knocks was mine, just for the record, in case you think my coach is drugging me.
Yeah.
No.
I don't know if it was still. I was like a sleeping tablet.
I've seen it with Dan Kelly. We stayed at Dan Kelly's house, and Dan is very. If Dan likes you, he's hysterical. If he doesn't like you, and you're not. But he, what's it called? He breeds is the wrong word. But he builds competitiveness in everyone around him. Like his kid, oh, hey, Eric, his 8-year-old kid. Eric, oh, you lost to Richie Walsh. I thought you were good at games. Like, just.
Do you agree what he did with that UFC fighter?
Which one? Oh, Brendan. Oh
yeah, but remember how that fight came about?
I was sitting on the couch at Dan's house, and Brendan O'Reilly's there. Now, Dan likes Brendan, but he doesn't like Brendan.
I think they were in the house together, all of them.
They were in the house together with Richie. And so we're staying at his house for a camp. And, you know, Dan and Richie really see eye to eye, so there's no teasing there. But Brendan and Dan just freaking always at each other. oh, how was your liver today? Oh, that spinning back kick. Oh, cool, work for you. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, Brendan keeps teasing him, and Dan's just had enough. So he decides to say, hey, Brendan, here, Vic. What was Vic? It was
Can't remember.
Something. Vic was one of the other guys on the show, and Brendan didn't really want to fight him. He goes, oh, yeah, you wouldn't fight Vic, and he made you an offer. That's not true. Man, everyone's talking about it. Everyone's talking about how Vic gave you the contract, and you were too much of a pussy to take it. That's a shame, dude. He goes, yeah, and he's like, oh, maybe let's message Vic now and just see what he said. Dude, he kept going until Brendan accepted the fight.
Yeah.
Not just accepted, challenged Vic on the couch that day.
Oh, no.
He
called the
messaged
matchmaker,
Sean
right?
Shelby and freaking got the match made on the couch.
It was the funniest thing
I've never seen any, but look at Dan Kelly. Body falls apart.
Yeah.
He is a tough guy, but I wouldn't call him a tough guy.
Yeah.
He's a competitive guy. He fucking hates losing in everything, the Nintendo, running race, eating competition. And Nick understands that. And even that still knocks is a joke, that thing that it happened. But even for that, that's Nick trying to breed competitiveness like
in
a
these
pit
guys.
bull.
Yeah.
And that's why his gym's Bulldog.
Yeah.
You know, and when you're looking for mentors, you can't just go one size fits all. Sometimes you go to him for competitiveness, him for technical, him. If I went to John Danaher for everything, I would have quit jiu-jitsu already. You know, I've been to his gym maybe 20 times. You know, I've been learning from him for quite a long time, but if he was my primary coach, I wouldn't be interested in jiu-jitsu anymore.
Yeah.
I wasn't looking for an oracle.
Yeah.
But sometimes I am. You know, so my other coaches gave me different
you need to have.
aspects.
I think that's where it becomes the individual's journey, right? Like
100%.
there's this big thing about, I guess, Ronin samurai. Like, you know, you're roaming around, you know, masterless, so to speak.
Yeah.
But you know, you need to absorb these influences for yourself.
100%.
And how you distill them and how you deliver them is actually going to be very different to how perhaps you were taught them. You know, Zach and I were talking about this only yesterday, where, you know, like he's very quick to credit, you know, other people or where he might have seen something or whatever the case may be. But the point
I tell
is
him sometimes not to do that as well, yeah.
Yeah, but the point is that, you know, the way that you view the information and how you distill it and the key takeaways that you take away might be very different from what the original instructor that showed you or the video that you watched
But also
might have given to you.
John Danaher is the best at taking information from other places, asking the right questions and applying it. Does he come up with original content? I'm sure he does.
Yeah.
But most of what he does is just, you know, for example, his guys do Marcelo Garcia's game better than Marcelo. Marcelo could never teach his game, whereas John can actually teach.
Yeah, he's broken it
aspects of his
down
game,
and
of
reflected
course.
on it. Yeah.
I don't think he even claims anything else other than that. But you have to find mentors that are willing to let you grow outside of them. And that's a tough one, especially in traditional arts, Kung Fu. Jiu-Jitsu has a big problem with that, letting people train and learn from other people.
I think that's changing.
It's changing with
Massively.
the younger generation.
Yeah.
It is changing with the younger generation who I think suffer from not allowing to be mentored enough. And that's a whole other problem. It's that halfway balance between the two.
Both. Yep.
But it's really interesting to find, and Nick is a perfect example. My old coach, Bruno Pano, was great like this. We've got a boxing coach, Eddie Calabotti, who you need to get on the show. Eddie's one of the
I actually asked him last night.
Yeah, he's one of the most interesting guys around.
Yeah, he said he would.
Fascinating guy. But it's tough to find mentors that will let you get other things from other people and accept they don't have everything.
Yeah.
I don't have everything.
Yeah.
And Nick,
You know, he
Nick
doesn't
was
have
good
it.
like that. Like I did a bit of boxing with Eddie. I was doing he was my mentor, my coach. I trust him to match me up, etc. I'd be doing a bit of stuff with Liam.
Yep.
I'd be doing stuff with Joe. Like
take
I'd had a conditioning
taekwondo
coach.
lessons,
You know, I had Jace Galati, real training. You know, who is Base Blocks. Shout out to Jace.
But
One of
even
my good
in
friends.
Thailand, right? Jun didn't teach Dylan everything. There were 20 different clinches
Yeah,
there
of
and 10
course.
different pad holders.
Yeah. And you're
But-
learning from your training partners too.
But that trust developed is important, so they can come on the journey with you.
Yeah.
And most importantly, they can help you get to where you want to be, not where they want you to be. And that's where sometimes the parenting teacher traditional system falls off a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's why B team split. I mean, there's other reasons, I'm sure, but a big reason is they probably just wanted to do things slightly different to John. And Mr. Dana is one of the best around, and he just likes things his way, and that's been successful for him.
Yeah.
And that's time to split. You know?
Out of curiosity, just to sort of mix things up a little bit.
Don't ask why they split.
No, we're not talking about that. But one of the things that I'm always very interested in is that, you know, I feel like jiu-jitsu has become a very thoughtful sport. You know, we put a lot of thought into why things work, how we break down specific moves, how we apply concepts. And like even, you know, we take that across other grappling arts as well. We look at wrestling, we look at, you know, whether it's sambo or judo, and we apply those things and we sort of add them into the grappling arsenal, especially in, I guess, no-gi where you can, you know, use that sort of, that crossover happens quite a lot, and especially for MMA. One of the things that I think is interesting is that I feel like, I think striking is now getting to that point where there is a lot more thoughtfulness entering the striking game. You know, I feel like for many, many years, like people were good, don't get me wrong, like people have gotten very good at striking, but they've always operated more under very basic concepts and very basic pretenses, right? So it's like people are just, so I always talk about the steps to conscious competence, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, when you start anything, you're unconsciously incompetent. You don't know what you don't know. Then the next step is that you start to realize, holy shit, there's a whole bunch that I don't know. So you're consciously incompetent. Then the next phase is then that you actually get good and things start to work for you, but you may not necessarily understand the workings of why it works.
We can do this in belt colors: white belt, blue belt,
Yeah.
purple belt.
Well, pretty much, right?
Pretty close, yeah.
And then conscious competence is when you know what you're doing, and you know when you do a specific movement, there's going to be a specific reaction that is elicited from your opponent or partner, and therefore you already know what's the next phase or the next step. So I feel like and part of what's made me think a lot about this, like Corey Sandhagen was recently on the JRE, and it was a great episode. So I can't espouse that enough. Yeah, very interesting episode. But you know, the things that Corey was talking about in terms of the lenses that he views the striking aspects of the sport are very similar to how I view striking, you know. So he was talking about the three things being distance, angle, and position. They're things that I love talking about because I feel like, you know, so I guess his point was that, you know, a lot of the striking arts are taught based on whether it's tricks or combinations. You know, you just throw this and this, and then hopefully that'll work. Or it's very basic from that perspective. It's like, you know, orthodox versus southpaw, outside foot position. You know, you cross down the middle.
That's one of the stupidest things, by the way, the outside foot position. But
yeah,
it's one of the dumbest.
We can
oldest,
we can go on a huge tangent about it. But like, but my point is that I feel like we're at this. I feel like we're going to see like a bit of an evolution happening in the striking arts because there's a lot more thoughtfulness coming in and talking about, you know, these bigger line concepts.
The testing grounds and where the money goes is going to influence it. And we can see it now with Muay Thai. Muay Thai with the small gloves is going to change.
Yep.
And the reason it's changed using the small gloves is because that's where the money is.
Yeah, one championship.
So, well, and that's right. Whether that's good or bad culturally is a different topic, and there's some problems there.
Yeah. What do you think?
Some resistance to that.
About the whole thing that's happening with like small gloves.
Well, so two parts to it: small gloves, and then I guess, you know, do you see like that? There's a lot more thoughtfulness going into striking, or do you think it was always there? Or
I think so. And then it's definitely like the striking's changing every like 3 to 4, 5 years. Probably about every 4 years. I'm seeing everything change. I'm even changing stuff every 3 to 4 years.
Yeah.
With trends that's going on. It's definitely, it's not like it used to be where it's just, you know, you hit pads, you clinch this and that.
Yeah.
There are some gyms like I know down in Melbourne and some in Queensland, and they're really good at it, but they're very restricted to one, like their opponent's very restricted to it. You look at one championship, there aren't guys doing really old, like point sparring in that. Like the money is in the knockouts, in the bonuses, in the excitement. Yeah. They'll keep you on if you're excited, if you're not exciting. Do I think that's a good thing? Don't know. Like, I mean, I like watching one champion. I watch friggin' millions of.
It's not that traditional.
I watch so many fights a week. Like every night or day, I watch some fights. But I actually
and they're
like
on every week.
yeah, and they're free too. Yeah. So, but yeah, so I do like the excitement because I've been watching for so long. I also like watching like Channel 7, you know, in Thailand, like the real old Muay Thai as well. And I do like that, but I am starting to move more towards the
spectator friendly.
Yeah, like there's one called Thai Fight, which is, they could do a better name. They literally have like 10 ties, small, no gloves. They use like just the wrapping. It's pretty big though. Yeah. I don't think I've ever seen, I literally have just seen Thais knock every Westerner out on that. I don't think I've ever seen a Westerner knock a Thai out on that.
Wow.
Like, you know, Sanchai fights on that every single time.
Yeah.
So I can't believe that guy's fighting.
Yeah. And he's still knocking people out. It's crazy. But he's not fighting great fighters. There was one or two that recently have been really good. Like I was like, oh, he could actually give Sanchai a bit of a run. But their guys had like 15 to 20 fights.
Yeah.
Sanchai's had like 400, man. Yeah. I don't even know why they're putting them in that show with him. Like it's not good for him either.
You know, the thing is, I was going to say is, you know, we've been saying this for a long time because we go to learn arts in different countries and places, and each art has cultural constraints. For example, jiu-jitsu was done in Brazil a certain way with a certain rhythm because it's from Brazil. Yeah. You know, like there's a rhythm to it, right? Yeah. Which doesn't necessarily suit someone without that context. Muay Thai was done because the point scoring works a certain way. Yeah. Does it happen to be a good striking art? Of course it does, right? But the thing is, there are certain cultural things and superstitious things that make Muay Thai the way it is.
Yeah. It's the gambling.
You know, it is. But the thing is, you know, you talk about artists and art, and your life and how you live it, right? And at some stage you realize the frame or the box you put it in is too small. And, you know, as a person, as an art, even jiu-jitsu, I think, is put in too small a box. And I think that's, there's a great expression, which is whatever frame or box you put yourself in, it's too small. Yeah. Whatever frame your art is put in, it's too small. And I love Muay Thai and I love boxing, Western boxing. I think it's one of the deepest, most beautiful arts. But the box is too small. And so when the UFC came along and the money came with it, it's forced Muay Thai and Thai trainers and Dutch trainers, et cetera,
to focus on that.
Well, to look at a bigger box, a bigger ring, smaller gloves, bigger opponents who aren't malnutritioned, you know? And so I think Dylan's lucky to have been ahead of that a little bit. You know, instead of just doing pure Muay Thai, we went to Holland and started seeing the value of Dutch Muay Thai and Western boxing together. But the cultural context of Muay Thai makes it Muay Thai.
Yeah.
Now, when you take that away, it makes it a more effective striking art in a bigger box. But it's going to get rid of the cultural context, which is beautiful. And that's kind of where it's a bit tricky. You know what I mean? Like, it's not... Some of the spirit of Muay Thai comes from the superstition and the culture.
Yeah.
So it's a tricky thing to remove it. But practicality-wise, where the money goes is the bigger box, and that's where we want... the art has to evolve to. So
I mean, like back in the day, being a Lumpini champion for anyone in Thailand is the ultimate. Like that is anywhere in the world, it's like the ultimate like win, right?
Yeah.
Now everyone just wants to get one championship.
Yeah.
You can get a lot of money. Everyone knows you now. Like I haven't heard much about Lumpini in a long time, just because I'm watching. Well, Lumpini Stadium is now owned by one championship, right?
Yeah.
And the Cultural Preservation Society is really like getting on.
I think they're trying to. I don't know if they're trying to sue them or not. I'm not going to give you like weird facts, but I try not to keep up with too much. I don't actually read a lot of forums. Like I'm not into the forum thing, but I do really enjoy One Championship. I enjoy what they're doing. I enjoy the excitement. I think it's given my guys a bit of a road. Like you got someone like Taliana, you've interviewed him. Like that would be good to get him on One Champion. They've got high level Muay Thai guys on there. They're MMA guys. I don't know.
That's a career.
Yeah, like these guys, and they take good care. And not only that, when you fight a One Championship, maybe fact check this, but I know you can fight on other shows as well.
Yeah,
I don't think you're stuck to the one show.
Yep. No.
And they pay them pretty well off the bat.
Yeah.
And the hydration test is,
it's interesting because
I'm not going to get into the steroids versus hydration thing, but
the hydration thing is a very interesting thing because, one of the takes on it is that, people still cut weight, but it's just they get the fluids back in a different way.
Where there are rules, there are cheats.
Yeah.
There's no way around it.
There's no way around it, right?
No.
Like, to be fair, there's no real way that you're going to ever get around it apart from, you just weigh the people the day of the weigh them the next day and then go, are you within limits?
The Nicky Rodriguez recent thing where he passed a test to prove his... I mean, magicians have been doing this for decades, years, hundreds of years, where they figure out what they need to get past in order to, suspend disbelief that he's clean. I mean, it's insane. It's retarded. But, there's no... The hydration thing, it's just not... It's not going to... People are still going to do the thing. They're just going to use drugs and other things to make it more dangerous to beat the tighter rule,
Yeah.
But I mean, look, Muay Thai, it's hard with Muay Thai because, we knew early on... So Dylan's a Muay Thai coach, but he's also a striking coach.
Yep.
And the ring is a different size.
Yeah.
And the gloves are a different size. And the athletes you're fighting with are different athletes to Muay Thai. A wrestler punches differently to a long, skinny Muay Thai guy who has to worry about checks and all that sort of stuff. And then obviously you got to coach different weight divisions differently. The lower the weight, the more the tools.
Yep.
The higher the weight, the less tools.
Yeah.
That's why Mark Hunt has 2 tools. He should get credit. He's got good leg kicks and stuff. But that's why you can just be good at hands at heavyweight and get away with it.
Yeah.
You can't do that at a lighter weight.
No,
You just don't have the power.
Yep.
So coaching different weights, different rings, different challenges is what a striking coach has to deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, which is great because it's the same as jiu-jitsu. It makes you a better problem solver, right? But back to the Corey Sandhagen thing, he's talking about switching and switching and switching.
Well, that was one of the things he was talking about.
Number one, Corey's a pretty good striker, but he's fighting people who aren't good strikers. So this is why I don't speak to fans of the sport anymore, because they don't put enough effort into actually look beyond cause and effect and actually correlation and causation. They just, he's outstriking guys. He is a good striker, right? But if you are someone starting out, you've got a guy who's using solutions for top-level guys. You're not fighting those guys. So for you to copy Corey is insane.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense, right? Number one, he's not fighting high-level strikers. Number two, he's got a certain body type.
He's very tall for his division.
He's tall for his division.
Yep.
By the way, I think he's pretty good, by the way. I'm not saying he's bad. But we see kids switching now from the beginning on and off, on and on and off, that don't even understand a jab or an angle or how an open stance works and a closed stance work, and how they don't even know how to get good at that.
Yeah.
And they, because of the size of the ring, which is good, I think it's cool in a way, you can kind of brush over fundamental errors, fatal errors.
You're covering them with distance.
Yes, with distance and space, but it's very rare to find a vertical depth of knowledge in striking.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I don't think Corey has access to vertical depth.
Well, it's the, when we talk about layers, right? I always like talking about striking as layers, right? So whether you're talking about distance, distance, there are layers to distance. There's the layer where we're too far to even touch each other. There's the layer where it's mid-range where we can both touch each other, and there's clinching range, right? Like there's 3 layers of distance to that. But when it comes to actually, attacking, countering, defending, completion, like if you want to talk about the stages of an exchange, right? There's an initiation attack, whether it's a jab, leg kick, whatever the case may be. There's the middle, which, opens you up to the counter.
Yep.
And then there's the person that completes the
Are you talking
exchange.
about chess or you're talking about striking?
I'm talking about striking, right?
Because it's the 3 phases of chess, opening, middle, and end.
Yeah, right? So it's the same, like I always, so the way I view striking and any martial art is that there's layers to it, right? And so
Of course.
Corey's playing on a specific layer, right? And then if he's not getting the reactions to those layers that deserve the next level of layer over the top of it, then you can get away with just winning with just that one layer, right? So as an example, if I continually am landing my leg kick and there is no layer that you give me back, or resistance, no check, no counter, no getting out of the way, I'm just going to keep landing the leg kick, right? Up until the point that you now give me the next layer. Oh, I can see you're lifting the leg to check. Okay, now I'm going to switch the leg kick for something else. Yeah. Right? So it's using those layers to sort of interact with each other. But I think, you raise an interesting point is because one of the points that Corey makes is that he likes to focus on things that are reliable versus, things that are tricky. Yeah. But in the same sense, his game is a little bit tricky already.
I was about to say.
Right? Because he's using the stance switches to his advantage to change the angle and using that as a bit of a trick to get an advantageous angle to
and he's also
land
not
in his lanes.
He's also not fighting people who have a vertical depth in striking. That will take advantage of that. And there's a reason in boxing you see the occasional shift, but you don't see stance switching because someone like Canelo with a Mexican boxing background who knows every angle and every trick in the book will kill you. Yeah. If you try and switch,
he only needs to stay in that same stance.
If you try and switch on an under 60 kilo Thai and you're 60 kilos, you're going to be in a coma. You're just not going to be they'll kill you. They'll see it and read it before you even think about it, right? But I want to kind of defend him slightly. Because here's the thing, so Dylan and I come from a background where we didn't have access to vertical knowledge. Am I saying vertical? Right, I am saying that. So depth. We didn't have access to depth, right? So Dylan, for example, would go to Thailand and train Thai boxing as hard as he can. But when he came back to Australia, there wasn't that. He didn't have ties to train with. He didn't have clinches to train with, right?
So my hands needed work when I came back. There wasn't. I had to go back to boxing. To
try and get the
hands. There was a lot of hand movement there.
Well, it's
changed now, but
it's changing because of the boxers getting bigger. Right? But the point was, Dylan would come back, and if he'd stay Thai style, he didn't have the depth of training here to maintain that. So he was doing boxing. He was training kickboxing and Muay Thai with Nick Stone. He was doing Taekwondo private lessons. We're doing things to get his horizontal knowledge better because he just doesn't have the ability to be brilliant in one line. He just can't. He just don't have the people. And when he'd go to Thailand, that would win him fights. And when he would fight in Australia, he'd use his vertical knowledge from Thailand to beat Australians. So you can do both. But Zach and I were arguing about this the other day, as usual. We're always arguing about stuff in a good way, in a productive way. Or I wouldn't give it time. Right? And we're arguing about stance switching. He posted the Corey thing in the group of athletes, of fighters. And I was about to counter. I was like, no, let me talk to him. We start talking. And I'm like, dude, there's a lot of dangers to stance switching. Most people don't even know the basics of angles and stuff like that, and motion and all the things you're talking about, entries. And they're just going to cover it up by switching stances all the time. And it may work at a low level against low-level guys, but if you put them in there, and a good example, remember Super 8 here, where they had the boxers versus the MMA fighters, and every MMA fighter, like Jai Bradney's an awesome striker, got fucking comatized because the boxer can read him and just overhanded his head off, right? But in MMA, he's killing people with his horizontal knowledge. So the point I was coming to with Zach was I was arguing this and that. No, this is the right way and that. And then I was like, hold on a second. We don't have access to that sort of vertical knowledge. Shit. I've argued myself into a point where we're talking about the perfect world. In a perfect world, your athlete would look like this. But we don't have access to those things. We don't have the training partners for those things. We don't have a Olympic boxing team to train with here, you know? So the point I came to, I was like, shit, I have to apologize to this guy. God damn it. I was like, I actually think that switching and Corey's style is good when you don't have the vertical knowledge. To really have that depth in Mexican boxing wisdom, so, or Thai boxing wisdom. So we coach people with vertical knowledge, but we include the horizontal as well, say 70-30. Whereas I see a lot of young MMA guys doing 70 in terms of variation and 30 in terms of actual practical kind of depth in each side. And
Yeah.
I think 70-30 is good personally, but there's a definite wisdom into mixing in that trickiness when you don't have the effectiveness.
Well, there's a really good video of Kobe
Does
Bryant.
that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, we had, maybe I've got this wrong, but we had like a fighter, Kai, one of my brilliant athletes to train, love training
Great kisser too.
And he, one of his, I don't know his first fight, it was early on in his, like it was quite a long time ago, and he fought this guy for a state champion. And
Was it in Tasmania?
No, it was in, I can't remember, I think it was St. Mary's or something. And he pulled off every single it was like a highlight reel.
Oh, the jumping knee knockout?
No, there was no knockout. He went the distance, right? But they went to the judges. This guy had a jab, a kick, and a jab cross and a left kick, and he won. Actually, I think it was a draw in the end, or he didn't win. But it was just a lot of, and then we had to go back to the basics and like you got all this tricky stuff, but you didn't win it because the points won it.
Well, so yeah, I was just going to bring up. There's this video of Kobe Bryant talking to like these kids when he was doing like a tour thing in China or something like that, and he was saying, you know, to be, what was it? I think the quote something along the lines of, to be unstoppable, you first need to be predictable, right? And that's the basics.
Well,
if you
Muhammad
don't,
Ali's an Olympic champion before he drops his hands.
yeah.
He's got like 80 fights like this before he starts going like that.
Yeah, right. And so you know, Kobe would be like, he was just saying like, I've got two moves. You know, if I'm going on the right side, you know, turn around, fade away. I go on the left side, turn around, fade away. Like left or right doesn't really
I
matter.
let you know nothing about basketball,
Like-
so these terms are like,
So it's basically
think of it like a teep and an elbow.
yeah. Just think of it like he's got two moves. He's got a
that.
teep and a jab, essentially.
100%.
You know, he goes one way, it's a teep. Goes the other way, it's a jab. And then he was like, you know, but once people start thinking, oh, he's only got two moves, this is what they're expecting. Now he can mix in the next thing, the next layer to go and say, okay, they're expecting the turnaround fade away. I'm going to pump fake and then go the other way.
Well, for
Right?
him,
It's the same thing. You know, feint the jab, go the round. Or
for him, 90% of his game is around getting people to forget about his left kick.
yeah,
You know what I mean? But that I like strangles.
yeah,
90% of my game is getting people to forget I'm going for a strangle.
yeah. And then when you get them, you get them.
But how did you get good at strangles? How did
Yeah.
you get good at your left kick? How do you know? So
Yeah.
But you know what the thing is, you have to look around and look at your resources.
Yeah.
People were talking about Alex Volkanovski the other day. I think that's probably me and Zach again. How did you get so good?
Yeah.
Well, he's short, he's strong, he played rugby.
Mm.
He's very smart. He may look bogany, but he's actually his fight IQ, because he used to come here a lot.
Yeah.
When Richie was him and Jamie Malaki and the guys used to come spar. He is a super intelligent training partner.
Yeah.
He's never sparring. He's always working on something.
Yeah.
When he's sparring, it's always work.
Yeah.
Like Marcelo Garcia. I've never seen a focus like that outside of a few people who really, they're always working. And then he chose a game that suits his body.
Yep.
And then he went and found people who taught him stuff that suits his body.
Yeah.
I mean, he lives in, where does he live?
Windang.
Windang. I mean,
Yeah,
I
Wollongong.
go there to fish for cockles.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't have resource. I mean, Joe's great. His coach is great. Just like any, like, you know, like I'm saying, so not taking Joe down a notch, but Joe as one man can only know so much,
Yeah.
right?
Alex is bringing in other influences.
He
He
is,
went to
is.
CKB with Eugene. And
Yeah,
you
but
know,
also
doing all those
he's
things.
chosen a game that suits the resources he had. He learnt everything Joe has to offer, and then whatever he doesn't have, he has to plug those
Yeah.
holes.
Brings in Craig Jones.
And that's all that fancy footwork, because he doesn't have access to the depth that would require a guy to look like Canelo, because he doesn't have a Mexican boxing coach, you know,
Yeah.
just like I didn't have one. So
Interesting. Yeah.
there's a few factors in play there, but you can see Alex's success comes a little bit from the horizontal knowledge.
Yeah.
But I can tell you, having watched him, Joe and him really worked on the fundamentals for a long time
Of course.
of shoot boxing. That's Alex's real strength, is shoot boxing.
Mm.
Man, he was a really basic fighter for a long time.
Yeah.
You know?
But he just does it to the 10th degree.
Of course.
So that's what makes it so successful.
But he's
right?
tricky, and now it works for him. But holy shit, he didn't start off tricky. That's for sure.
And I think like these days, people are watching UFC. Like I see the guys in the sparring. Yeah, we have sparring here a couple times a week, and I watch them. And I'm just like, what are you doing?
Mm.
Like you can't even throw leg kick. You're not even checking.
Yeah.
What a jab,
Like,
a good
and
old
they
jab
are-
cross.
Yeah. Can I just go back to one thing? So with we're just talking about the weight cutting and one championship. We've actually just what we're talking about as well. The guys in our team, we've moved, and I'm constantly trying to keep up to date with what's happening in the scene and where we're lacking when we go to fights, and where the other gyms are strengths and where they're lacking and what, you know, et cetera.
Yeah.
So I try to like constantly analyze it and keep up with it, because it is changing all the time. But we actually don't let. So our guys have a spreadsheet, a Google spreadsheet. We work on Google spreadsheets for my fight team. They have all their details. They've got all the fights coming up. It's just easy to copy and paste to promoters. And they have to register. I've got about 6 pros. They're like pro, semi-pro. And in order for them to stay in that pro group, we have criteria. We have 10 criteria. I'm not going to go over them. It's not.
There's a lot of people complain about Dylan, and I'm just like, dude, he's got to do it the way that works for him. And you know, like as in the lazy people complain.
Yeah, there's guys like some younger fighters that were eating friggin' McDonald's, and they're like 2 weeks out from a fight. I'm like, not gonna. Yep. Yeah, so my like pro guys, and I also manage the other guys as well. They have to put their weight in every day or every second day at the same time. Tully's one of them. Not that I have to worry about that guy because just he's a little project. Yeah. I don't have to worry about him too much. It's great, but they have to be. I will not match them. Like if they want to fight at 70, they cannot be above 73 kilograms. So we do it at maximum 3 kilograms, because that way if they get a call up, I can be like, you know what, just fast for a day. Anyway. You don't even have to. You don't even have to cut weight. You don't have to go in the sauna. When I was fighting, I arrived in Jamaica after one flight to LA to Miami to Jamaica. I was stuck between Steve and Stu McKinnon. They actually pinned me. I don't know if you know Steve and Stu McKinnon, but they are massive. Yeah, and they pinned me.
Remember Carnage? Like anyway,
they pinned me like this, and I just slept like this the whole way to Jamaica. It was fantastic, and we didn't really know about I didn't know much about the sodium that hold on to the water and carbs and this and that. We arrived and they're like, okay, you got to weigh in about 4 hours. I'm like, oh god, and I was like 7 or 8 kilograms. I was like 60. I was meant to be. Nick's
you were meant to fight at 61.
No, I was meant to fight at 60, and Nick's like, oh, it's 58.7. It's same. I think we got the the promoter was it was just a bit of miscommunication.
Pounds and kilos.
So I got down to I sat in the sauna. Nick Stone locked me in the sauna and sat there, and then Steve McKinnon, they did shifts, and I sat there for like hours and hours and hours trying to get this water out. And they weighed in. They're like, yeah, still got a kilogram, and I'm like, oh god, and I went back in. They're like, it did a lot. I never hydrated for that fight again. It was just impossible for me to get that hydration back in. It was impossible.
You describing the fight is like the first round went well, and then the second round I couldn't lift my hands up above my waist.
I was fading between rounds. Like I was so dehydrated. Jamaica was hot. But the damage I did by cutting so much weight is I've done some damage. It's affected my body. It's affected long term, and at the time
we can talk about that damage.
Yeah. But I've ended up in hospital
for an organ or two out.
Yeah, I got a couple of organs. I've had, I've gone into hospital where kidney and liver was not doing so great on the way to a weigh-in.
Well, he was on the way to a fight, and one of our guys is driving him, and I get a call. Dylan just said he just complained. Oh, he had a sharp pain and fell out of the car, and now we're going to hospital.
We pulled over, by the way. We didn't.
We had to go to hospital, and you got his. What did you get removed?
I got my gallbladder and appendix removed, and my liver and my kidneys were like failing. Like literally
cutting too much weight.
We didn't even
know what we're doing. Well, no idea. This was a long time ago, though.
What happens when you get your gallbladder out? Like, doesn't it serve a specific function, or do we not need that one?
You just can't have like really fatty foods, so it's all right. I know a lot of people that gallbladder. It's not the be all and end.
The weight cutting did so much damage, the doctors panicked and took his gallbladder out.
Yeah,
so it's like it's swollen.
Rather than trying to give you hydration.
Well, they were giving hydration, but the damage had made inflammation so generalized.
Yeah, well.
But anyway, so like and I noticed when our guys go fight. Now they're a lot more fresh. They're not cutting weight. I don't even call it cutting weight. They're just maybe someone. I mean, Tully's on weight and Ollie on weight the night before.
Yeah,
we've got it so down pat now. We're arriving with like a kilo to go.
Yeah, the guys are eating.
They're fighting 5-6 kilos overweight now. Yeah. Everyone's got it now, but for us it's hard to understand because it just wasn't.
In the Muay Thai scene, I think people are just cutting too much weight still. Like really, I'm pretty heavy on monitoring my guys. I just don't let them fight a weight that's not comfortable with. And we're getting good results from it too. They're going in fresh and they're not getting tired.
Yeah, it's a consistency thing, right? Like,
it messes your chin up as well. Your brain cannot rehydrate the way your body rehydrates. It just can't.
Yeah.
That's why you get a guy touched on the chin who's never been knocked out. He goes unconscious. The hell?
Yeah.
I'm sure with Alex Pereira, Izzy's precision helped, obviously.
Yeah. But obviously he's cutting a lot of weight.
A huge weight cut, man. Yeah. Huge weight cut. It's crazy, man. Yeah, but that's traditional knowledge. Cut as much weight as you know. Like when Rob Wilkinson fought, one of our guys fought Israel at Asaya. He should have beat Israel. People laugh at me when I say that. He was in the wrong weight division. He's now the PFL champ at a higher weight. Yeah, which you got to find your weight. That's the tricky thing is finding your weight, right?
Yeah,
like,
and it changes when you're young too. Like if you're 18.
Yeah.
Between that 18 to 25, you could still grow. Your frame
My guys are growing.
Well, I've got a kid, Oscar, now who's fighting.
Super fight coming up. Shout out to Oscar.
and Luke Pizzuti. But Oscar's not going to be fighting under 66 he's 20, you know, he's 19 or something. He's going to be fighting at
small boy,
77, you know, so, but yeah, weight cutting's hard and choosing a right game's hard. And I look at that, Rob Wilkinson's fight. He won the first round against Israel, right? And he gassed. Of course he gassed. He cut 12 kilos of water the night before. He just he was in the wrong weight division, you know. So it really affects people's performances, and it's
we saw that with Rob Whittaker, right? He went up a weight division.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
killing himself at 170, up to 185, becomes a champion.
Luke Dillon's rule is now, 3 kilos above?
Only 3. No, they got to be 3 kilograms. I would not weigh, like, if they want to fight at 70, I'm like, if you're 73, you have to be 73. I won't weigh in. But it's funny enough, my guys are actually, they enjoy coming up weight division. A couple of my boys, like Aaron, he's like, look, man, I'm not strong at 63.5. I actually don't mind going up to 66. I'm like, you know what? You're a pretty big guy. You're strong. You're working with our conditioning coach. And you know, like you're strong.
He's
so like
strong.
they actually, it's good that they actually look at coming out, my guy. They're not too scared.
Would you look at doing it as a percentage rather than 3 kilos? Because obviously a person,
well, he's using 3 kilos for you as a
none of my guys are above 80 kilograms anyway.
Okay.
So like someone like Tully, maybe 4, but I'm just lucky he's always kind of on weight anyway. My guys like being on weight already, which is
strictly
good.
speaking, we do use percentages. It's just easier to say 3 kilos.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's just an easier measure, especially in the amateurs.
Yeah.
Once you get to pros, different.
Yeah.
And what students don't understand or athletes don't understand is amateurs is to find your right weight. You don't want to find your weight in pros.
Yeah.
When you're in amateur, you should try some different weight divisions. You lose a decision, who cares?
Yeah, that's right.
Try cut weight. How do I do it? Like plastics, do I like water manipulation? And so
What works
3
for your
kilos
body?
is a good, safe way to go. For MMA, I do 1 or 2 kilos higher. I do 5 kilos because of the grappling aspect, the heavy aspect. Whereas Muay Thai, there's no weight on you. So those 2 kilos can make a difference.
Yeah.
But I won't do above 5. But again, if I have a 100-kilo guy, we're talking a different thing.
Yeah,
to
of course.
And you know what's funny? Like Thais, even when I was in Thailand in January, there was I saw a couple of the gyms. I knew who was fighting from the posters. Did they just go out?
Did I?
No, it's good.
Hello.
It's good.
It's good.
No, we can hear.
You can hear or not?
Yep, that's better. Yep.
No, it's fun. It's fun.
That's okay. So I saw Thais still running in the street with a sweatsuit on.
Oh,
Yeah,
bro.
wow.
Like, and this,
I've
so
got a
they
story
weigh in
about
the day of. So I think it was like 10 in the morning or 11 in the morning. They were weighing in the day of, and literally they'll fight that night, probably like 9, 10 o'clock at night. And they're still doing, they hadn't eaten for 3 days. They're still running like crazy amounts. Like I watched them do the weight cuts, like nothing has changed. You know, nothing's changed. They're still doing old school mentality.
Spirit is triumphant in that sense, but
Yeah.
it's not smart.
No, of course not.
But I mean,
Yeah.
I've seen, look, jiu-jitsu is one of, even MMA. MMA is getting more technologically sound. Muay Thai is not, but Western striking is.
Yeah.
You know, thanks to, I guess, boxing and just Westerners in general thinking about things, asking questions. But Jesus, jiu-jitsu is one of the stupidest, like most undeveloped sports I've ever been involved in. I mean, it's just so rudimentary in so many ways. I mean, look at the guys, even in terms of drug cheating, it's terrible. How many NFL players do you see getting caught? You know, and we know that, I mean, those guys are on stuff, right?
Well, it's basically in
$1 million
ADCC.
contract.
I'm sure most of the athletes are all, you know, on the gear of some sort. You know?
I think anybody who thinks Alan is innocent and ignorant, but anybody who's not, there's no point even talking about who's clean and not clean. I mean, look at what just happened at the IBJJF.
Yeah.
Half the podium was empty.
Yeah.
I mean, we all knew those guys were taking. Everybody knew, right?
Yeah.
They don't even know how to mask it well enough to beat Yasar. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
a Wada or Yasar, whoever it was. The thing, in other sports, they know how to cheat better. You know what I mean? Like,
But is that really in the spirit of it? We just want them to cheat better?
No, but the thing is, it's look, if you do professional sports over a period of 10 years, you're going to have to take PEDs. Write me an email, get angry at me, but that's the bottom line. Can fuck off if you've got another opinion. But that's the thing. I've been back. I know athletes. I've been backstage. It's to even discuss whether they're using it or not is idiotic. Okay, and we're not even talking about MMA. I'm talking about running. So I mean, shooters are using beta blockers. Like dart players are using PEDs to win. You know, people are competitive. You can't take a competitive person and tell them not to do whatever it takes because they will do whatever it takes. But what I'm using that example is that, and I think ONE FC and Pride were smart in that way. They're like, what the fuck are we testing for? This is stupid. Like, let's focus on hydration because maybe we can help people not die. But to even test athletes for drugs, I mean, do it as like a basic deterrence. But even, it's ridiculous. But anyway, coming back, we get caught in jiu-jitsu because our guys are stupid and not well developed because they don't model on other sports.
Yeah.
The reason why people who in other sports don't get caught is because they look for advanced technology. This why I'm bringing this up is, and yes, it's bad to cheat, but that's not the point. The point is that if you look at that as an example, that's how rudimentary we are. That they're still using drugs that, like, wow, what did Mika Galval get caught for the other day for like, what was it, for testicle fucking, fertility drugs. Yeah. Anyway, the point I'm coming back to is the training method is stupid. The competitive method is stupid. When I want my guys to learn about competing better, I bring a judo coach in. That sport understands how to prepare for competitions, So I get like Mark Brewer, I bring that guy in to talk about preparing for comps. I don't ask some guy from Brazil or America or Australia who's done a bunch of jiu-jitsu comps.
The bro science.
Too much bro science. Yeah. And bro science can be smart, right? I mean, ties are full of bro science and superstition, right? But coming back to the point was, I watched a group of very talented people, this is back to Dylan's point, prepare for Abu Dhabi trials last time. We had a seminar guest here. I watched some guys who should have won it, including a girl as well, who's brilliant, world champion. The day before the comp, the next day, they were training for 4 hours both days, rolling in seminars, rolling hard to lose weight.
Yeah.
Okay. They were rolling with people who they've never met before. All you have to do is break a finger. Yeah. You will never meet an NFL player who goes, I'm just going to go play with the local team, but let's just do some street ball before the big game on my $30 million contract. It never happened. Boxers would never just spar with someone we don't know, like Creed 3. That would never happen, right? So the point is, these guys all went to Abu Dhabi the next day. Every single one of them should have won. Every single one of them lost. And I mean, I saw them that night. We were out doing Korean barbecue and drinking beers. And I'm not criticizing their spirit or their technical ability because it's good. These guys are good, right? But that is some caveman sports shit. Yeah. Dart players wouldn't make that mistake. You know what I mean? So as a sport man, we're really rudimentary still. And so I never look at MMA or jiu-jitsu to copy. I always look outside, because if you look inside, it's like incest. It's like breeding with your cousin to make a better kid. It doesn't make any sense, right? That's my rant.
No offense to the people out there that do that, by the way.
Yes.
All right, we've got to switch gears a bit, because it'll be remiss of me to not try and get some of Dylan's stories about...
Oh, gosh.
Oh, can I take you back then? I'll tell you where to start.
Yeah, let's go.
We go to Thailand. Dylan's fucking signed up for the French Legionnaires or whatever the real version is. We start doing Muay Thai. He gets better at Muay Thai than I do, of course. And he ends up being world champ and fighting and this and that and coaching and speaking fluent Thai. And then we're in Koh Phangan. And this is, it's hard to understand people's connection to martial arts when you take context and culture out. Yeah. Why Dylan has Thai tattoos is a very good reason. I've got a funny story about that tattoo, actually, which we'll talk about after. We're in Koh Phangan training. We're having dinner with... Say it again?
There's probably better things to talk about.
Well, it's funny because there's a mistake on it. But we're in Koh Phangan. We're eating duck curry. Fuck, we don't have much money.
Remember how good that duck curry was?
It was so good. The red duck curry.
There's one place that had it was just like a chilled cafe. I feel kind of sad actually for people these days, because they'll never experience what Thailand used to be in like 2000, 2001. It was really raw.
It's funny.
It would have been even more raw before that, but it was really raw.
Back then, before heading to that story, I will say something we often talk about, and I talk about this with Sonny Brown. It's very hard for Dylan, and like his Muay Thai student will complain to me, or my Jiu-Jitsu student will complain to him about me, like individually, like, why is he so tough with this, or why is it? The thing is, it's very hard for somebody who spent all of their money for
literally
15 years.
Every dollar.
Yeah. Every dollar to travel overseas to train Muay Thai, or Holland to train Rob Command, or whatever it was, or for me to go to Brazil and America. And I've spent every cent I've had till I was 35 on resources. Yep. And the thing is, it's very hard for us to understand when a fighter wants to just train 3 times a week, and training's a bit expensive, and I don't really want to go to that seminar. John Danaher's coming down. I'm okay. John Danaher is here.
The investment's worth it.
The thing is, dude, I went and chased him. He wouldn't let me train or do a private with him for my first 6 trips to New York. It took me 6 trips for him to do a private lesson from.
Wow.
This was like 15 years ago. I don't regret that, but that's Dylan to get Jun to trust him.
Yeah.
It took 10 years, man. You know, so it's very hard for us to understand new people because they have a lot of access and they're so spoiled, right?
Yep.
And it'd make me angry. And then Dylan's point there he just made was that at some stage I realized I shouldn't be angry because also these guys are pretty good too, but shouldn't be angry. They never got to experience what it was like to have that comic book you could never get hold of, and one day you walk into a store after searching for it.
How did that make you feel?
And you found it. They'll never have that feeling.
Yeah.
And it's like somebody who, I'm sure you've had friends who try to have kids and they just can't. And then one day a miracle happens and they can. Those people never take that kid for granted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we went through a time where we didn't have resources, which had its own problems, but there was so much romance and excitement and like just us traveling and searching for camps and this and that and bribing people and here's a cigarette box and here's a bottle of whiskey, teach me how to do that. The guys nowadays will never know that feeling, right? So I feel sad for them in that way, whereas I used to feel angry.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're eating Thai duck curry in a place that doesn't exist anymore.
I actually remember that Thai curry. The place disappeared after like 2 years.
The whole of Thailand disappeared.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I say, Dylan, look, we're out of money. Can I go grab some? It's your turn. Because we just did turns back then.
No, you were going back to Australia and I was staying on because I had a Vietnamese visa in there because I had to get visas back then to go up to Vietnam like a couple of weeks later.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah,
just
give me a card.
Give me a card because we got to pay for the food. I'll go to the ATM. And he goes, the code is 6766. You going to remember that? I'm like, fuck off.
Can you imagine that was actually my code?
You know how we look at it. Like, I look at him like, fuck, don't say it. Anyway, I'd never talk to someone else how I talk to him and vice versa, right?
Yeah.
That we don't know. And I said, just give me the damn card. I'm going to go friggin' get the thing. 67, fuck off. I know the code. Boom. Go put it in the machine. Type the code in wrong. Was it 666 or 654? Type it in wrong again. Fuck. Fuck. Machine swallows the card. It's the only card.
I didn't even know machines 8 cards.
There wasn't internet back then the way it is now, so there was only phone banking. And
there was
phone banking.
There wasn't internet. No, there was internet. It was dial up and it was an island, so it was like 1 megabyte a second.
Yeah,
yeah.
Really
there was phone banking where you had to transfer and call.
Oh, yeah, that didn't exist.
Fuck, dude. So we call them and they say, look, and Dylan's pissed now because he's going to Koh Phi Phi with his friends in 2 days' time, and there's no money. I don't have money. And the card's going to take 3 days emergency to get there. He's going to miss the trip with his damn friends. And I'm going home because I'm going home in 2 days.
Yeah.
So I'm like, fuck Dylan. I managed to ask some friends to give him a couple $100 here and was going to be there in 3 days. And sorry, dude, you're going to have to miss the trip and go later and give the thing. I get on the plane. I go to Malaysia stop off. And as I arrive there, I turn my 5110 on and it's got like 100 fucking messages. Are you all right? Are you all right? Are you all right? Dylan, was Dylan there? Is everyone all right? All right. Phone calls. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? Look at the TV screen and the news. A fucking tsunami hit Thailand. And it hit where Dylan's supposed to be.
And by the way, when I was in Thailand, they did a full media blanket. They denied, I'll tell you the story why later, but we didn't know anything about it.
Yeah, well.
There was no anything. They just said, oh, there's been like a natural disaster, and they just wouldn't put anything on the media. Nothing.
That's the face thing.
Wow.
Yeah. But it can't go too deep into that because it is a country we want to go back to and we love.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at this and I'm like, what the fuck, dude? And I call Dylan and Dylan's like, yeah, what's up? I'm like, what do you mean what's up? You're in fucking Koh Phi Phi. Tsunami just killed all this. And he goes, no, I'm still waiting for my card. I'm like, oh, thank God. And he had to wait for the card and miss the tsunami by 1 day because of my incompetence.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Saved his life.
Well, it was where the serendipitous or religious, I don't know. But the point was he would be dead. Yeah. No question. And he had to wait for that damn card. Parents say, get Dylan back. And I go, oh, Dylan's not going to come back. Trust me. He goes, because his friends are on Koh Phi Phi.
So what happened is I had these two guys called Glenn and Tom, Melbourne boys.
Yep.
I haven't spoken to many years. And we already done a couple of trips before. And we were just like, we just had a really good bond.
Yeah.
And we'd go to the full moon parties and we'd dress up the same. And like, so we're like, yeah. But what happened is for that particular Christmas, because it was on Boxing Day, we were like, we've already done Boxing Day and Christmas and New Year's Eve here. Let's go to Phi Phi. So what happens is when the full moon, like Copenhagen's here, when the full moon party, everybody comes here. So like, let's go to the other side where it's quiet and just chill. We've already done this a few times. So those two boys went ahead. And then I'm like, okay. Well,
I'm waiting for the card.
Well, I'm waiting for the card. I'm like,
brother.
well, I mean, we didn't have like like 2001, like or 2004. Sorry, like we didn't have great phones back then, especially in Thailand. And we're like, okay, well, I'm gonna go find those two boys. Okay.
Well, my parents are like, make sure Dylan doesn't go find those boys. And I'm like, okay.
I just went,
call him up and he goes,
right
yeah, I'll come home right now. Of course, I'm like, yeah, all right.
I went straight over there. I got a letter from, I was staying in a Danish hostel. Of course I was. In a Danish hostel. And I said, listen, I need you to write a letter. I still got the letter. I saw it actually this morning, funny enough. And I need to write that I'm head of search and rescue in Australia, the Red Cross. And it's all in Thai because the wife was Thai, he was Danish. I was like, okay, cool. And I went there and I had all these like medical kits. All the pharmacies were donated. We didn't know what the hell was going on.
I don't think anyone knew what was going on.
Yeah, we went over. I went over. I'm like, I'm going to find Tom and Glenn. So I arrived. Then I got up to like the guy that looks like he's the big boss. I'm like, boom. And I was like, here's my thing. You know, maybe you guys need some help. And they're like, sweet, you're head of search and rescue. I'm like, okay, sounds awesome.
All right.
I was like a little twerp. I look at my photos. I'm like a little rat. I'm like, sweet, so I'm head of search and rescue. And there's about 4 or 5 other foreigners
Did you speak
there.
Thai yet?
I don't think I did because of the pork story. I don't think I did. Moo.
Yeah,
I don't think I spoke that much Thai then. I think I did new bits and pieces, but not like enough.
Yeah.
And they're like, you're head of search and rescue. So we'd dress up in this gear, and there was like 5 or 6 of us, a couple of like the army, and we'd go there every day and would just like, it was not search and rescue, it was search and gather bodies. So there was, 1,000.
No one to rescue.
Yeah, 1,500 bodies on Peep Island we found.
Wow.
And then the rest of the bodies they didn't find. But then what happened was there was a lot of ATMs that got smashed. Like the place that we were staying, I could see from the other side of the island, it was just flat. Absolutely flat.
The place in the middle where we used to stay near
no, we were going to stay on the, maybe it was there, I can't remember. It was one of the places. It was just absolutely flat. So I could literally see it across the island. And there were ATMs and passports and gold. Think about what everyone had in their safes and lying in the hotel room. It was flat. And so what the army did is they surrounded the island with like 400 of them, but their job was to protect pirates coming in overnight because it's a fishing village.
Yeah.
So we didn't have much help in terms of like gathering the bodies and this and that. I was like, what was I, 20 years old?
Yeah, 21.
Yeah, 21. And I was like, you know, like I'm invincible. And it was my hero moment. And, you know, we joined up with a few of the rescue teams.
The other side of being a hero.
Yeah, yeah.
And
we'd like sit on the boat. I'd sit on the boat with like body bags, maybe 100. I'd just sit in the middle. And I'd just sit there in the middle and just make sure none of the bodies fell off. And I thought this was very normal, by the way.
Flying in and out of helicopters every
then
day?
Then we went in the helicopter. That was a funny story. I think I told my friend, there was a South African friend I dragged into this. I didn't even know him. I just dragged him along. And I was like, yeah, you just go there today and just chill for the day. And then they're like, yeah, you're going in a helicopter. I want to get my spot. And they're like, have you ever rappelled out of a helicopter? Because you couldn't land there. It was just really rough. And I was like,
jump out.
Yeah. I did heaps of rock climbing up at St. Leonard's. Like, yeah, I'm good. And they're like, you know, you have to rappel forward. I'm like, yeah. I've done this in Katoomba with the school. Mate, I jumped out the helicopter. I literally jumped out. I literally thought I was invincible back then. I jumped out. I looked down. I was like, oh, shit. I grabbed the rope and it swung me under the helicopter. So, and I went down and I was like limping off.
Right now, like, hey, Mum,
I was like,
So the guys on the helicopter would have just heard this massive tunk.
But yeah, anyway, so that was
what happened.
Yeah, it was.
But I see photos of them and like you didn't have a proper, like you just had like some rubber gloves and a fucking,
we got
like
to put
COVID
singlet,
mask.
rubber gloves, and it was just like we ran out of resources. We're like, nah, we'll just like get a door and put bodies on, just drag it back. Like we had no resources.
The door story, just remind me if I'm telling you, I remember you telling me was because the bodies were like tissue paper by the time you found them.
It was gross. Like it was like you literally just grab the whole head would pop off or the arm would fall off. Because what happened is it took us so many days to get going, like get bodies off there. And like some of them were, I'll tell you a really actually crazy story. Just remind about a South African person. It was 40 degrees. It was stinking hot. The bodies were like literally liquidizing in the bags. But this is like day 5, 6, 7. Like there was so much disease on that island. The animals were eating it. So what happened, funny enough, well, not funny enough at all, the animals felt the tsunami coming all ran up the hill. I also had a guy there that we knew. I don't know who he was. We knew him somehow. There weren't a lot of Westerners going there. And he smoked a joint and he went to the top of the hill and woke up. And he woke up the next morning. I think he took a girl up there, like a Western girl. Woke up and just the whole island was flamed. Doesn't remember anything.
Wow.
Jeez. But yeah, so basically...
Did he save her life at least?
He said they're both in
he threw her down, used her as a raft.
But, there's a lot of disease and then they end up taking us off and then bombing the island with like sprays and it was just chaos. There was no organisation. I think it really got scary for me when there was this lady. They figured out that there was another girl I knew from the eastern suburbs that was doing like the tagging of the bodies. So the bodies were so badly, like there was nothing left of them.
Yeah.
They couldn't actually tell which was Thai, which was Western.
Mm.
So they brought in a Swiss team to do DNA testing, etc. It got that bad. And she somehow told other people from her school in the East, and our schools knew each other quite well, that I was there. So I got a call from South Africa, and it was a family that knew a family and said, listen, we need you to speak to someone. They're with a psychic right now.
God.
A psychic.
Wow.
And we're looking for, they're looking for their son and daughter. And I said, look, I'm open to everything. There was no contact on the island but me. None of them spoke English, the guys with me.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I had my little 5210. And they're like, listen, I'm with the psychic. You need to walk 100 meters left, blah, blah, blah. Okay, stop there, turn left, whatever. And they're like, they're right in front of you. And I'm just looking there and I'm just like, there's nothing in front of me. Oh, okay, move further. Like, it was just a flat island.
Psychics need to go to jail. But
yeah, so like that,
people
people are
get
desperate.
tragic, people get magic.
People are really, really desperate for to find their loved ones. A lot of them never got found. They just got buried or taken out in the sea.
So did you find Glenn and Tom?
Oh yeah, let's go back to Glenn and Tom. What did Glenn and Tom do? So there was Koh Samui. You take a boat to the mainland, take a bus across, and another boat to Phi Phi Island. These guys, he's actually one of I'm not going to tell what his job is because he lives in Melbourne. But anyway, he's a bit of a cowboy. They meet two English girls on the boat across.
Yeah.
And these English girls like, yeah, we had this crazy mountain. So they went up. They're like, yeah, we'll come with you. And they went to this mountain hotel right in the middle of Thailand. And obviously they had no reception there. And I'm sitting there looking for their bodies in Phi Phi Island for like a week.
Yeah.
Anyway, they eventually call me after about 300 missed calls. And they're like, yeah, we met these two girls and we just kind of stuck with them and had a bit of a, like, shag fest or whatever. And yeah, we've been here. I'm like, you could have helped. Like, you're medically trained. Like,
they were doctors.
Yeah, but they didn't know about it. Like, there wasn't no one knew about what was going on.
Wow.
So anyway, my whole story is looking for them. He saved my life, looking for them. And they're just on the mainland meeting English girls.
For you though, was there any point after, like, I know in the moment you're obviously very focused on what's going on.
Yeah.
But the trauma of seeing so many dead bodies.
Oh, absolutely. So
when did that hit you?
So after so I don't think you even know the story, but I was speaking to a long, long time ago. I'll see if I can find the email again. One of the guys that was working with me, a German guy, he was a very strange guy, and then again, my team was strange. And we were back on the area called Krabi, which is the mainland 2 PP. And then we had to we ran out of stuff to do. There's no more bodies to find. I was like, I really wanted this hero moment. This was my hero moment, right? And I was there, so I was like, let's keep going. And I was in the football field or like an oval, and they just dumped all the bodies there. They didn't know what to do with it. Like Thailand, Krabi is literally the third world countries. It's a small fishing island back then. There was nothing.
Yeah.
And we had a stick, and he had a stick, and then there was another Thai guy that had a stick. And our job was to make sure the dogs didn't come on and eat the bodies. But then people started stealing all the jewelry, like the Thais. I mean, they're poor, man, as well, I don't know if they're Thais. It could have been any other country. Came on and stealing it. So our job was just walk around. I was so tired by that point. Then the army's like, hey, take this. It's like a little red tablet. No idea what it is. Amphetamines, of course. So I'm like, yeah, cool. So I'm up all night, like buzzing. And I'm like, you guys cool. And then I started speaking to this girl called Marie. Actually, I've never really publicly spoken about this. Here it goes. And I was speaking to Marie all night, and she was on duty with us. And then this German guy comes up.
Was she on amphetamines as well?
Well, I don't know. We're just talking about like how we'll go back to
diet pills.
Yeah, how we'd go back to like the real world after seeing so much stuff. Like, how are we going to do this? Yeah. And one of the boys come like, okay, cool. And I just keep walking around. It's a big oval, a lot of bodies. And then one of the guys comes and goes, who the shit are you speaking to? And I'm like, Marie. And they're like, there's no Marie here, buddy. And I'm like, no, I'm speaking to Marie. Right. And then they're like, there's you, me, and him. And there's always been that. That's us on the roster because they gated the area off. And I was like, oh, shit. I think I've got a little bit whacked. Dude, to this day, I remember having hours and hours of conversation with her. I remember what she looked like, everything, right?
Wow.
What did she look like?
Then they dobbed me in. Oh, she's like, she's like 50-something years old, right? And then someone dobbed me in and said, I think he's going a little bit crazy. It was a couple of weeks, it's like 2-3 weeks into it. And I was
Stop taking the red pills.
Yeah. So they dobbed me in and they said, hey, listen, we've got a couple of Aussie consulate guys here. They said, listen, I think you better go up to the kid. Like, maybe go up and check in Bangkok. So I went to Bangkok. No idea where I was going. Bangkok. I was by myself. And then Liam, hooked me up with
Adam Kayum.
Adam Kayum.
Yeah, my coach Adam. Yeah. And Gemma, his wife.
Yeah, so they took me in, and I was just like, like buzzing, not knowing what's going on. And they made me check into the consulate every single day. And then I was seeing what they thought was therapists, but it was like low grade, like lifeline. It was really poor people that handling the situation. And it was pretty bad. I saw a lot of the families there every day at the consulate. Adam took me in and took care of me, which was really cool. I remember you
having panic attacks.
I remember pissing in Adam's yard, which is probably not a good thing. I went to piss in the yard. I didn't know they had fire ants there or whatever they were.
Oh, no.
And at that point, I thought I was going a bit crazy, and I felt things go up my legs. And I was like, shit, I think I'm pissing on myself. And I ran back in the house. I was just covered in these ants. Yeah. I don't know why I pissed out. So anyway. And eventually they said, listen, I think you better go home. And to get back to Australia was really tricky, man, because everyone just fled from Thailand. Because there another tsunami or another earthquake was happening. Like, there's always rumors going around.
There was a follow-up one. There was something else happened. I remember there was a follow-up something. Yeah.
But I was like, okay, well, they said like, yeah, you better go back to Australia. I lost my passport too. I don't know how. I think I left it at Copenhagen, and I couldn't find my passport. So it took me a while to get my passport renewed and all that stuff. It was like a piece of paper. And then eventually I came back to Australia. And luckily, when I flew back to Australia, there was two ladies next to me that were two sisters that spent their life being Buddhist, monks or whatever, and they were, dressed as monks. And I talked to them the whole way back to Australia, which was really cool to talk to about, like reincarnation. I didn't know much about that stuff. Reincarnation. Got back to
Westerners?
Yeah, two Aussie girls. Yeah, two sisters. They're probably in like their 40s, 50s. And when I got back to Australia, I was kind of like, I think I better tell someone about. I think I told you.
Yeah, you're coming back. Do you want to hear my reflection of that? Is that it was like people don't often, and they do nowadays with PTSD, but back then the word PTSD wasn't used that much.
Exist. Yeah.
No, and so I understood it as like panic attacks and anxiety attacks from like trauma, I guess. I
was hearing voices, like kids' voices in Thai.
Oh wow.
Yeah, look, he was so tired, he wasn't sleeping, and a bunch of different stuff. But there wasn't much discussion of what someone does with sudden trauma like that.
Yeah, when you see all these things.
And also, we forgot to mention, not that it's relevant, our parents actually split up on the day I got back.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that.
The day I got back, I didn't even tell my parents what happened. So, then we were in the house. It's a big house back then. It was just us two in the house.
Actually, it's funny you say that because it's the 20-year anniversary of VT1. And we started VT1 around then when you came back from that trip. You would just started before, but we probably started VT1 around then.
Yeah.
And the thing for him was, looking at him was, and you can see it if you go watch that Joe Rogan episode he is totally dissociated and suffering from PTSD in that at that time, because that was quite soon after, I think.
It took a long time too.
It took a long time, and he just retired from fighting later on. That's its own thing, but there's some real things that they don't tell you about that happens when you want to be a hero, and you go and help. And so, when I say hero, it's maybe that sounds cringy, but he was awarded a bravery award from the Thai government, and he ended up doing search and rescue for about.
I did it on and off for a couple of years in my 30s, early 30s.
In Koh Samui, which is this whole other fucking killer fish. So that's a different thing. But that was kind of the beginning, I think, fair to say, of your real connection to Thailand and feeling like a Thai.
Yeah.
Learn to speak the language, and he went back for search and rescue.
Tsunami or after the tsunami?
Straight after the tsunami.
Oh, yeah.
I think that was probably the only way you could deal with the trauma, is just to go there and be part of a healing country, to be honest.
I went back on the anniversary and spoke to a lot of... so no one knew what was going on the mainland in Krabi. So we would come off each day and we would have a batch of pictures that we took, terrible pictures, and be like, these are the bodies we found. We just pin them up. There was no organization. It was terrible. It did get better. Imagine
a bunch of Westerners getting off a boat with dead bodies and going, hey, fishermen, here you go.
Yeah. We literally would put up, and you know what's really weird? I have these really weird memories of certain flashbacks. I'll tell you a funny one about dogs chasing me too.
Doesn't sound funny.
And there was a computer and families could come there and see which, we had them manually, and then they uploaded them.
Yep.
And they would go through and see if they could find their kids, see their kids or their family or whatever, right? And there were Thai kids sitting there, I'm talking 5-year-old kids looking through these deceased, morphed bodies,
but bear in mind,
it was nothing.
If you ever go to Thailand, the
no censorship.
Well, there is with pornography or things about the king, But if you have a murder story on the 6 o'clock news, they'll have the brains circled on the floor.
It's crazy.
They'll cover the guy's face, but you'll see the brains on TV. Which I don't even know if that is crazy. I don't know what's crazy and what's not crazy. Because, I mean, there's the censorship. But I just remember, look, he came back. He was having a lot of panic attacks. Couldn't really associate with Australia very well. I remember that. And he wanted to go live in Thailand. And that went for quite a while. And he seemed pretty normal other than that, coaching, starting the business. And we'd go for sushi like we do more than we should probably. And he'd just take his phone out and he'd just go, oh, look at this. And that was during search and rescue. So this is what happened in my memory. So he went from there, was fighting, and then went to search and rescue, I guess to keep the...
Something going.
You know?
You got that.
Yeah.
And so the Joe Rogan...
That was where I retired from fighting as well.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan show was during the search and rescue, not during the tsunami period. It was the follow-up. And we'd just be having dinner and he'd go like this. He goes, oh, look at this. And it's just like a dead baby's head on the concrete. You know, like obviously he was the person who came to the rescue.
I wasn't taking pictures for myself. Everything has to be documented.
I mean, he had
and the Thais I worked with don't have like great phones. So sometimes I'd have to use my phone.
He wasn't saying this is funny. He was just like, oh, look, this is some of the stuff that happened while I was there. Yeah. Dead bodies, bullet holes, scraped this, car. And he'd just go back to eating. And I'd just be like, don't show me that, dude. Yeah. And the thing is, I guess that's what happens. I don't know. But with trauma, you basically crack, snap, and you don't understand that that's
not normal.
Yeah, you desensitize from it.
You switch off. You know, you switch off to that. So there was quite a long time where, and you can see it if you watch the Joe one, that he's just a little bit desensitized, I think is the right word.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously you came back around and, you went back to normal, but there was no information or idea that you had PTSD. Now in hindsight, you 100% had PTSD. Not a question.
Well, I probably also wanted to deny it because I enjoyed doing the work on the rescue. I was only Western doing in Samui. Like it was like we were cowboys. Like we just had so much fun doing it. Not fun doing the bodies, but there was other things we did, cut open cars and cut people out of cars and, put out fires, which I had no concept of what I was doing, but I just held the hills.
I mean, your stories about the search and rescue are even more crazy, but the thing is, in my guess, like watching you, is that you had this thing, Western society, you came back to, you don't relate, and then you can go back and get that buzz, but also sleep with your Thai team and speak Thai, and they believe in ghosts, and it just gives you some we're talking about healing, and context.
Yeah.
Thai healing and Thai context is supernatural. And Dylan would come back and tell me stories of seeing ghosts. I'm like, come on, bro. Look, for me personally,
I have some really good ghost stories, but I won't tell them publicly.
Ghosts don't exist. It's supernatural bullshit, etc. Right? Now, I'm not saying memories. I'm talking about just an actual ghost, right? But you're in the cult, and the one you did with John Wayne talks about this. I came around to realize we're not talking objectively about a ghost being there. He's in a culture that uses superstition for healing. They have to believe in this because of the amount of terrible things that happened. Yeah. And so when he saw a ghost, he did see a ghost. I'm not saying he's lying, but we all know supernatural. No, but I'm saying we all know that's bullshit, right? And if you don't, you're an idiot.
I thought it was bullshit too. No, I'm just kidding. He's right.
What I'm saying is I'm talking about objectively.
Yeah.
James Randi has proved this for decades, right? But the point is I came around to realize...
Love James Randi, by the way.
Your reality is your reality. And his reality at the time was he was a Thai person for a long time.
Yeah.
And that's how they deal with trauma and the world and the things that are happening, reincarnation and ghosts. And so what happened to him is very real. But it took me a long time to go like, nah, he's just talking nonsense. I used to get angry. Like, don't stop talking about fucking ghosts, bro. And you sort of go, he did. But that's his reality.
Yeah.
And that was...
Well, it's like talking to Marie, right? And then, she was real to you.
Yeah, and then after certain situations, I told my Thai team, there was they were just volunteers. We weren't a paid service. It's called Samui Rescue. And I love driving that V8 turbocharger, thing around that island. But when I told them about it, I'm like, listen, man, there's shit getting knocked over in my room and
there was I'm hearing... you said with a ghost and...
that's a longer story. That's I could tell that one day. That's
Wayne Parr has the same story.
Yeah, it was a crazy story. That was the first time I was like, whoa. Anyway, I told my team about this certain night where I heard things knocking and someone talking. I was like, could be PTSD or whatever. And I told them, I said, come. And they got me in the car and we drove straight to the temple and then did this smoke thing. And then we talked to them and I talked to the monk the best I could. And they really believe cleansing yourself after touching bodies and stuff is important. They believe it, I've never met a culture so superstitious like Thais.
Yeah.
Crazy superstitious. Not crazy in a bad way. Like, I didn't realize people were that superstitious. You know, like seriously superstitious. So I learned a lot about superstitions.
Very
Japan's
superstitious.
very superstitious.
A lot of superstitions there.
But you know, like you talk about, you know, you're Chinese. You know, sleep paralysis. What's that called in Chinese? It's like it's the ghosts.
Sitting on you. Yeah.
Sitting on you, right?
Yeah.
When you're a culture without scientific testing and the ability to look at neurons and all that stuff, you're gonna have to figure out a way to deal with these things. And the way Thais deal with it, and probably quite healthily, is with superstition. So it took me a long time to realize that's just the way he's got to heal. That's the way it is.
So
I felt silly afterwards.
But they believe in like bad ghosts too, and they're like, oh, we need to make sure you cleanse in case that bad ghost haunts you. And they tell stories from generation. By the way, if you ever want to watch really, really good TV, like horror movies, Thai horror movies are amazing because they have such a... So funny enough, there's actually I've got to stop saying funny enough. Funny enough, there's actually a Thai TV show about a rescue team in Bangkok. I can't remember. It might be called Bangkok Rescue or something like that. About a rescue team in Bangkok that is kind of corrupt, but not, and very interesting story. It was really interesting. Like, by the way, I'm not saying any of this corrupt in my one when I was, but it blatantly showed a lot of things that happen in Thailand publicly too, because it's a TV show, and it was pretty graphic as well. And so kind of said a lot of my experiences actually are involved in that TV show. But Thai horror is really brilliant. Yeah, it's a bit ridiculous.
Well, they're bringing to life these stories and like the beliefs that they have, you know, from young.
Yeah.
Dylan, for you, like in terms of the healing, then, so did you feel like that was where majority of the healing happened for you, or like when did you sort of feel like, oh, I'm sort of getting back to baseline now?
Liam, when I came back from Tsunami, I went to see, so the government gave me unlimited funds. So it was like $1 million, like it's multi-million-dollar fund for people that were affected by tsunami. So I had funds to go see like top psychologists. I went and did, I managed to find one in our community that got recommended, and I did this buzzing. So I had like electric buzzers, left, right, right.
I remember that.
And that was interesting, but I didn't really connect. I went to a few others, and then Liam sent me to someone he knows quite well, which is good. I had a hard time connecting with him, mostly because I find, like even now, my therapist is a female. I just found it a lot easier to talk to females. I just always, that I just feel more comfortable with a female. So that helped a fair bit. I think Liam helped me a lot through that as well.
Having VT1 definitely helped.
Yeah, and keep fighting. I really had a focus to fight. I was still fighting, right?
Yeah.
So then when I was in my 30s and I retired from fighting, that was kind of when I got really lost.
And lots of dogs.
Huh?
Lots of dogs.
Yeah, I got really lost. Like, what do you do when all you've done is just train hard and fight? You're in the spotlight and suddenly I woke up on my 30th birthday. I was going to fight Raja, Lumpini, and then like in Cambodia, in theory. Like we were setting it up. Like actually Jordan from my gym was helping me set one up. And I don't even know if I was probably going to get murdered there, maybe not. But I just woke up on my 30th birthday, go, I'm tired.
Well, you were trying to get into the UFC. That was the next
challenge. Yeah, remember I was going to go into the UFC.
Yeah.
And I just woke up and I don't know why. I just went, I'm tired. I'm retired. I have ulcerative colitis, similar to GSP. And it was quite reactive back then. So
you couldn't eat.
I'm sure weight cutting had a lot to do
with it. Weight cutting was bad. I had like a lot of blood inside me. So weight cutting made it 10 times worse. So I think that was kind of my point where I was like, I've had enough. We had the gym going. Liam and I talked a lot about like, can you do both? The gym is growing. Can you not do both? We were in a Redia warehouse. I don't know if we're here in a warehouse there, one of the two. And so I still had a really big focus. But in my 30s when I retired, that was really tough. I think anyone retiring finds it really tough, even though I was like, I'm ready. So what do I do next? Go become a bull rider. Got smashed.
God. I get a phone call one day. Dylan's got into hunting, which hunting is actually probably quite a healthy... I
was hunting a bit before that, though.
But hunting's probably quite healthy. You're in the nature.
Yeah.
And he was doing it with Nick Stone and guys who were, like, solid guys in their 50s that were,
grounded. Very grounded.
Grounded's a great word, yeah. But I get a phone call. It's from Ben Grant. He had a psychic Ben for a while.
Who I'm seeing in Finland.
He's singing
in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, Liam. We took Dylan bull riding because he wanted to try it, and he's broken his shoulder.
We went to a bull riding school.
His
a whole
first
group of us.
ride. And I get on the phone, I'm like, good. Tell him good. He's lucky it's not his fucking neck.
Yeah.
Because he was always doing
Always
stuff
did
like
break
that.
my
I'm
neck.
like, fucking, what's it next? Parachuting with fucking...
Well, I didn't tell
feathers,
Liam
you know
stuff
what I
because
mean?
Liam would talk me out of it. So
So you just started to do this one. on
yeah,
your
but you
own.
know what's funny? This all came and haunted me with like some of
But now your shoulder
my
can't carry
fighters
your
and
kid.
this and that. That like they were doing stuff behind my back. I'm like, now I know how Liam felt with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's brave and there's stupid.
Yeah.
We were very brave.
Bull
that day.
riding, bull riding is stupid if you don't know how to bull ride.
Oh.
If you do, it's fine.
There's a couple of guys in wheelchairs,
his
old men
first
watching.
ride.
That's, yeah, exactly. Well, that just
I've been on
reminds
sheep before. They held me pretty well.
me
You can see, how's your shoulder now?
Actually,
Go
this
like
one.
this. Yeah.
No, this one's fine. It's actually the other one. This one's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you won't.
But yeah, so I suppose like I was trying to find bull riding. I was hunting. You know, I was trying to. You know, I drank coffee. I needed that adrenaline rush. You can't just stop fighting one day. Like,
You also need a direction in life.
yeah, I was
Like,
like,
you know,
what do I
just-
do? Run a gym. You know, I'm not fighting anymore. And I still trained, but it was like I trained 2 fights. I enjoyed learning things, but like I was heavy. Like I always wanted to be
Yeah,
the
this
next thing, the
focus.
next thing, the next title.
Well, it was 11 years straight of fighting.
It was
Not one
tough.
break,
And a lot of weight cuts, man, and that took its toll. So I think after that, and then I did the rescue team, trying to find my way, my home. Who do I want to be? My identity, and that was really tough. Especially being 30s alone is hard. You know, going from 20 to 30, but then retiring. And I really, really loved Thailand. And like Liam said, I tried to find a connection where I felt at home, and I did. Like I felt really at home in Thailand. But then I think after like a year or two of going back a lot and doing some of that rescue work, the Samu rescue, and also got terrible PTSD because I just got too cowboyish. Like I just got way too involved doing really dangerous things that looking back, and I'm like, I was actually mad to even think about being involved in those things. We weren't even trained properly.
But can I say, the PTSD thing you described as well, I remember you describing it when you came back. People often talk about the danger part, right? But it's also the going to sleep with your buddies in the same room and waking
Yeah, the
up with your
camaraderie.
buddies,
We slept on one mat.
camaraderie,
All of
and
us, 6 of us
you
slept
come
on
back
one
to
mat.
Australia and you're in an apartment with no one around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's how soldiers feel, you know.
Yeah.
So like you had a team there
Yeah.
that you'd wake
It
up
did.
with
It
and
felt
sleep with
safe.
and
We
eat with.
they actually said to me, "We prefer you stay here so we can all protect each other."
yeah.
Yeah.
from the
And then I woke up
ghosts.
with one dude licking my ear. No, it's not. That never happened. That never happened.
That was
So
a ghost.
yeah. So then, when did you start to finally feel like you've
So
come
I
back to
think
baseline?
I think I just came to terms with. I think I stayed there for quite a while, like quite a few months. Liam said, "Look, just go." He said, "Look, I'm not letting you go live
for a
there.
while.
But you can go there for as long as you want, for 3 to 6 months." And then I hit 3 months, and I was like,
By the way, I'm not his boss, but we were running a business together. That's
Yeah.
why. Not,
and you're
not because I'm
flying
like, you
solo
can go
when
do
he's
this.
away.
Yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
fuck, I look after the gym while you're away.
and then I was like, you know what? Like, let's go back to Australia. It took a couple of years. It really did. I think it took many years, 3, 4 years.
Pee while you guys
Yeah, I was about to pee as well. So
Yeah.
just Liam by
That's right.
himself.
Well,
Keep telling your story, keep telling
3,
Yeah,
4
finish the
years.
story
You
and
know,
then wrap up.
I did
People know
I
what
did
you
find a
missed.
really good therapist, a psychologist that helped me through that. I went on mental health plans. I did suffer a lot of depression. So I was on Ritalin for a long time as well when I was younger.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And I kept losing the boxes, so I had excess amounts. So I was probably taking more than I was meant to. Like I said, one tablet, I'll take 3. You know, especially through my HSC and through my uni.
Yep.
And
No
that
wonder you
bumps you
studied
up.
so well.
What's that?
No
sorry?
wonder you studied so well.
Well, funny enough, on Ritalin, I speak to a lot of parents here about their kids, and I say, don't put your kids on Ritalin. You come down very hard. Like
Yeah.
I remember coming down off that tablet like 5 o'clock, and it was like the world was caving in on me. Also, I was probably taking too much, but you know that bumped me up. That bumped me up in terms of my, you know, it bumps you up, Ritalin. And I was fighting. And I was training. I was doing racing motorbikes. I was doing everything. I was hunting. So I was up on a high all the time. But suddenly I stopped fighting. You know, it comes down. So I'm looking for other things to bump me up, and it
fill
just never came.
Yeah.
So I had a really bad depression from PTSD as well, from working for Samu Rescue, and yeah, just really bad depression, trying to find the next thing. You know, I'd drink a little bit. I was never an alcoholic. Drink a bit, eat a bit. You know, put on a fair bit of weight. Didn't really want to train. I didn't have a need to train. Try to find all these things. And I did do a lot of therapy with the psychologist, and, you know, went on a mental health plan. And I tell you what, if I didn't have that, I have no idea where I would be today. I went into a really, really dark hole that was really hard to get out. I was very lucky to have very good friends. and a brother, and they had like a gathering, and I managed to climb my way out of it, but it took many, many years, man. And it's tough in 30s, when you turn 30 or you turn 40. Like I just turned 40 like 2 months ago, maybe 1.5 months ago. And I was a bit like depressed. I was like, oh, happy 40th. And I'm like, oh, I don't want to be like, can you say happy 30th? So I did get an identity issue of where I was going. I spent 10, 11, 12 years running the gym and fighting, and where was I going? So that was a critical point for me. And I think running the gym was really good because I was around good people and I was around supportive people. My brother was really good. He kept encouraging me to see therapists and kept me on the right track. We lived together for quite a while, Liam and I, about 4 or 5 years in a unit. And then I got a dog, Big Ralphie. I think that was really good therapy for me.
Getting a dog. Fair enough.
And then I got another dog.
Yeah. How many dogs have you got now?
Just one.
Okay. All right. So, okay. Well, I think what
Looks like I didn't miss anything.
no, yeah,
We talked about dogs.
We talked about dogs. You need to hold the mic so that you can actually.
Of course, you're talking about dogs. Dylan loves dogs more than humans.
True.
All right.
That's
so
not true.
We've covered quite a bit, but we're gonna. What I think we need to do down the line, because there's some NDAs and things like that, so we can't discuss certain things. But I'd be sort of curious to pick your brains on future stuff.
Yep.
In another episode down the line. So
sure.
yeah, I think.
Oh, you're talking about like martial arts industry stuff.
Yeah. I think that would be a really good combo.
We can talk briefly about some of that stuff if you want. We just can't talk about one specific event in a good way.
Well, I think
there's some exciting stuff happening and but we can't talk about that one part. But is there anything specifically you want to know?
No, I think we'll pull up steps there.
Good.
So it's 2.5 hours for everybody who's been.
My back is killing me. I need to pee a lot.
The sushi joint closes in about 20 minutes.
All right. Okay. Well, we're done. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.